Oh, I don't have any more.
It's just gonna be me.
Pretty much.
We could have this.
That heady.
Yeah, we could split the heady topper. You've never had one? Sean, get us some cups.
I know, right? I'll go get him. Refresh. You guys are live. Should be. Oh,
Good morning.
It's-
Nobody's on.
I see us. It's just us. I'll never get used to seeing something I did like 2 seconds ago on there.
I know. It's kind of weird.
Oh.
Sorry about that, bird.
My fan's blowing it away anyway.
You're lucky.
Sean's gonna get it all.
No, I'd rather not. Thank you. All right, everything should be good.
We are good.
We have one like, but nobody's watching.
That's him.
Yeah.
It's you?
I sneaky.
You like your own video?
Maybe. Help set the...
He's gone. Gone.
That's the people.
Couple people.
How? I thought you could see who was on when they joined.
I don't know if you can actually see who is on, but
Or was it just like when they say
when
like,
the
"Hey
chat-
guys" or something like
the
that?
chat. You
Yeah.
yeah. There's a bunch of people that don't jump into the chat. They're just here to make fun of us. Or
Yeah.
give us a couple minutes. We'll be on. Sean's going upstairs. What's he? Cups.
getting
I think he's
cups.
got cups.
Splitting the heady.
Splitting head.
I think like you've never tried that.
Never had it.
What's the matter? What's the matter with you? Oh, what's this? That's not what we expected.
I know, but I had...
Oh, all right. I'll take.
Take your pick.
Switch them up.
That's the most awkward.
No, it was great. It panned out just perfect. How's everybody doing tonight?
Morning.
All three of you. Give everybody about 5 minutes as we usually do. Where's my mouse? This should be live. I mean, I know it is.
It's probably the viewers are probably my wife and her friends joining to make fun of me while I'm on this.
Rude. Yeah. All right, everything's good. So, as usual, give 5 minutes for everybody to kind of trickle in here for the next few minutes. Then we'll get started. How's everybody doing tonight? Whoever's here, sound off as you usually do, please.
Whoa!
What?
Lemon lemonade. That's freaking
And green.
citrusy.
Remember we talked about
This is like a lot more mellow.
it? Is. There's the proof.
We did talk about that.
There's the proof.
We did.
Yeah, it's just
Many a time.
It's-
Hey, Ryan. Thanks for joining, buddy. What? Look, he's hiding all the good stuff down. We are Richland Farm. Hey, thank you for joining. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. A lot of baits, a lot of different techniques and thoughts and the whole 9 yards related to fast versus slow.
We got it after.
Ooh, is that the Rapala?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at those. I almost bought some, but I've already got enough blade baits as it is.
Ah, come on. Come on.
Brendan and Andrew, thank you for joining. And Sam, sorry I missed you. Nice, Brendan. Glad you could join us, dude. Hi, Bert. I'm sorry. I had some of the best sushi I've ever had today for lunch.
Yeah, where'd you go?
Wait, I forgot the name of it. It's in Concord.
Chang Yang Li?
No, not chain link fence.
Chain link fence? That's the most racist thing I've heard of.
That's what they all call it at work. Moritomo, Japanese steakhouse and sushi.
Huh.
It was really, really good.
Never been there.
We spent $100 between the two of us.
Oh my god.
Oh, it was worth every penny. Dude, we got
Excuse me?
2 specials of each, and then, which was what they call it, an Andy's roll, and it was like, it pretty much, no, dude, it was incredible. I can't even explain it, but it was,
$100 though?
oh, dude, it was so, we got 4 of those, and they were $15 each, and then we each got a spicy tuna and a Boston roll, and it was, actually, we originally started with the 2 specials each, and then the other 2, and then we both looked at each other, we're like, we'll take another special each, please.
That's an extreme amount of fish.
That's all I've eaten today. I feel like a champ.
Mercury poisoning.
Nah, I'd be fine. Worms, all that good stuff. That's actually pretty good.
What's that?
What are you doing?
Oh, it's a piece of tree.
Did you?
Something.
All right, 5 minutes in, good enough. We'll get started. We'll let everybody else trickle in from there, as is usually what goes on as we do these shows. So, everybody that's here, thank you all very much again for showing up every week. I greatly appreciate the support. I'm gonna throw this out there at the beginning and multiple times, just because we've been killing it lately on it. Anybody that's interested in donating to help support the channel, we'd greatly appreciate it. Down in the video description below, there's a link to either both Venmo and PayPal. Otherwise, you can donate straight through YouTube, though they do take a significant cut, something like 40%, which, not the end of the world, doesn't matter. Anything you guys want to throw is huge. We got a bunch of donations last week. I think we got like $100.
Yeah.
Now we're over, I think, $315 or something like that, towards that $1,000 goal. We're getting very close to that nice new camera for the stream. The PC that we built, Andrew, we got it up and running this weekend.
Thing is sweet.
So now we're just going to buy the editing software this week and get them up and running on that. We'll be good to go. Who else? David, Brendan, Jerry, thank you for joining. Other than that, let's get started. Tonight we're talking about fishing really fast versus fishing really, really slow. And you got people like me who likes to do both. So we're going to try and go down not only all of our favorite baits and techniques for it, the rationale behind what makes us decide to do one over the other, how we target it differently for largemouth versus smallmouth, clear water, staying water, like cover the whole spectrum specifically for now, but I do want to roll in a little bit what we do differently as the season rolls on. So that's the plan. Other than that, we have Dennis joining us tonight, which he has been here before, but I'm going to allow him to reintroduce himself yet again.
Hello. Hey everybody. I'll be talking about fishing fast. As everybody that follows me knows, I do a lot of crankbait fishing, jerkbait fishing, things like that. My last time here, we actually talked about jerkbaits, and I talked about jerkbaits. They talked about jigs. So I'm sure it'll be a similar type thing this time.
Probably, yeah.
Right along the same lines, yeah.
Definitely for me.
Tell me a little bit about, you used to write for somebody at one point.
I did. Yeah, so I don't do too much anymore. I used to be really into tournament fishing, and kind of at that same time I wrote for On the Water magazine. I used to have a monthly column there I did it for about 2.5 years. It was called Bass Blueprint. If anybody's ever read that, I was the one that started that. But yeah, I had a monthly column with them for a couple of years, and eventually, so basically the column was just talking about bass fishing in New England and just kind of some techniques and stuff that I had, little secret sharing, things like that. Just a short little like 2-page thing, but eventually I kind of got away from that. I feel like it started to make it too jobbish for me, so I kind of cut back from that, and now I just go out there to have fun, not try to produce any content and stuff like you. No, that's like it's an added stress when you're trying to do that, right?
Not really. Like at first when I was trying to like get my whole setup going, yeah, but I've got everything dialed in, so if anything dies, it's like whatever. I've got backups upon backups.
True. Yeah.
It's all like it's good, so it's not even a distraction. It takes 5 minutes to set it up, 5 minutes to tear it down at the end of the day, and it's good to go. I don't even think about it anymore. Yeah. So that's Dennis. You can follow him on Instagram, Bass Fishing Dennis. There's a link to him in the video description. He also runs the Bass and Beers Facebook page, if that's your thing. A lot of guys sharing fishing pictures. Sometimes they talk a little bit about what they're doing, and they show off all their tasty beverages they got. Which, to answer the question in the chat, yes, you do see some 603. I decided to go the seltzer route tonight, so I got the 603 hard seltzer, tangerine. And more importantly, Andrew, thank you very much for the donation, dude. Greatly appreciate it. And yes, we're going to go fish that lake with you real soon.
Oh, yep.
Give me the baked potato recipe. Yeah, I'm curious to hear this.
I already baked
There
my
isn't one.
potatoes, so-
There isn't one.
You are a baked potato.
Well done.
Hey, Rogue Trader. Thanks for joining, dude. All right, so slow versus fast. We're in that kind of weird time of the year where you can do a bit of everything. I have had great success fishing on both ends of the spectrum. Last weekend, Andrew and I went up with a friend / subscriber of ours, Eric. Yeah, I'll just leave it at Eric. And it was weird because the conditions lined up like we thought it was going to be, like kind of hammer 'em, but we had to slow way the hell down to make it work.
Yeah, real slow.
And then 2 days later, I go, granted an entirely different pond and kind of different situation, but everything lined up like it would have been perfect for working kind of slow still with soft plastics and the veggies up tight to shore, the whole 9 yards. And that 2 hours, nothing. And I was out for tryouts for my high school bass fishing team. And the last 20-ish minutes that we had, I was like, you know what? I'm marking enough fish out a little bit deeper. I'm going to speed it up and finally commit to throwing that crankbait. And literally first cast, I hooked into a fish. And I caught 3 inside 10 minutes. And then nothing for the last like 10 to 15 minutes. And then we had to pack it up. I had to get it right back to the boat launch. So aside from that kind of driving what's been going on lately and will continue on for the next few weeks, this is a topic of discussion that Dennis and I have been talking about a lot lately too, because we went and fished the New Hampshire Brownie Factory not too long ago. And we knew it. Like, we were talking about it the whole time, and that was still a plan, even though the conditions were dog crap for fishing for smallmouth up there. Bluebird skies, no wind, high pressure. Like, you just don't do it.
You don't fish for smallies.
No, but I wanted the practice of, like, can I figure them out? And we kind of did.
It was a challenge.
You did.
We got a few fish.
Yeah, but we had to fish slow.
We did.
Real slow.
We
and
did.
that's not what you normally do.
No, it's funny. You made a comment at one of the spots on that day where you said, I feel like we're kind of fishing a little too fast. And at that same time, I was thinking, this is literally the slowest I've fished the entire year. That was the slowest that I had moved along the
I speed
entire
up
year.
to fish with him.
Yeah, well,
Hey, would you make 1 cast per trip?
I know. It works. I was fishing really, really slow. And I remember at one point I said to you, too, I was like, I think we're on our second or third spot. And I felt like we were moving just a little too fast for the day and the conditions. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't know, man. I said that and I was like, I mean, how fast do you normally fish in this? Because we're like kind of trying to get to that next level of understanding for what our preferences are for fishing. And he's like, yeah, dude, I would have been on like my 10th spot by now. And we're still on spot number 2. And I'm like, just another 100 feet. Give me like 20 more minutes. So that's kind of where a lot of this started. This conversation really came up from. And the fact that Andrew and I have talked about it so many times, where he is very, very happy living in the ultra slow range of fishing. And it took me a while to get there, but I'm close to him as far as being comfortable being able to fish that slow. But I'm still like, I'm happy doing either thing. I like fishing on both ends of the spectrum. So that's what I want to cover, and I want to go over like what drives that decision making to get to that point. Like, based on what we're seeing, why would you choose to fish fast and cover as much water as possible versus slowing way the hell down, picking like one rock pile and hitting it literally 50, 60 times, slowly working your way all the way around and throwing like 5 or 6 different presentations till you figure it out. So that's the plan for tonight. I want to first start with kind of personal preferences from everybody, and I'm going to start with Andrew, which, I mean, we kind of know the answer, but I want you to elaborate on it, specific to the time of the year we're at right now, where I would still consider us in like the heat of the summer. We're getting close to the end. We're getting close to the beginning of the transition stage, but the water temps and the conditions, fish pattern behavior, the whole 9 yards, to me, I still think we're like late summer fishing, or like the deep summer fishing.
I'd still start fishing super deep, try and find rock piles that I know are there, and I'll go hammer them. I'll switch out trailers, I'll switch out colors until I find something that's going to work. And then I usually try and stick around to that kind of depth where I'm at. If I find them in 20 feet, great. If I find them in 40 feet, if I find them in 60 feet or whatever it is, I'll just keep doing that. But I'll also, if they're not biting that deep and I go up shallow, I will start fishing a little faster if I'm going to pick up like a frog or something. But even then, I'll still let that thing sit for a while. And most of my bites if I ever do fish a frog, are usually when it's paused.
What is your typical pause, like your cadence when you're talking about fishing slow and long pauses? Like, what does that typically look like?
I mean, summer or
like right now,
right now?
Midsummer, right?
If I'm gonna wait and pause, if I'm tossed on a rock pile, and there's like a rock in front of me, I'll toss it out and I'll let it sit. I don't know, 15, 20 seconds maybe. Then I'll just pop, and then I'll let it sit a little longer, and then I'll just like, all right, well, nothing's there, and I'll reel it in, and I'll toss it to the other side of the rock. I'll toss the front side, and then I'll toss the back side, all the way around that rock, and I'll just pinpoint all different rocks, and I'll just do that all day until I figure out what they want.
You would hate fishing with me.
I know. John's like, you should go fish with Dennis. It's too fast. Too fast.
You would not like.
No, I'd adapt it. I mean, I do it with him.
Yeah.
So he picks up a spinnerbait. I'm like, all right, I'll throw a chatterbait.
Right. you're
something I'm
comfortable
with.
doing it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not comfortable. It's just
No,
not
it's
what
not.
you prefer to do.
Right. It's not like I wouldn't. Well, depending on the day. Like if it's super windy and like the temp, everything's right for a moving bait bite, I will go out through a square bill and I will crank that thing and I will rip that thing, or a jerk bait. I will do that. I prefer to find a rock pile or some sort of hard structure and sit on that shit for as long as I can.
Draw a mental map of the contour of every boulder. if I
Pretty
feel
much.
it from the jig. Like,
Pretty much what's
So,
going on in my head.
you cast 15.5 feet over there. There's a boulder that's about 3 feet wide by 2 feet tall by 4 foot wide.
And it underhangs because I felt it slip underneath. And I know it's there. There's a fish in there. I felt them looking at it.
If you hit about 12 o'clock on that side, there's a little patch of vegetation on the top of it. Oh, hey, Mrs. Hart. How are you?
Hi.
Morning.
Ridgeland Farm. Who is Ridgeland Farm? I don't remember his name. I can't remember. That's your buddy.
It's Steph, I think. Right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is Stefan. All right. We're watching you fish a shoreline of docks and the amount of time it would take me to fish one dock.
That sounds it.
Oh, yeah, that's very accurate. Dude, watching him fish Champlain when we were up there back
Flip
in
one
May,
next. Flip one next. Flip one next.
and when we were job shotting,
Couldn't do that.
like he's out, just hits bottom, shake, burn it back, cast it out, shake, burn it back, cast it out, and
Yeah.
I'm like, move it once. How many casts are we taking now? I'm moving it my second time. Hang on. There it goes. All right.
That's like a strategic
Sometimes it
thing for
works
me.
though. I mean,
is-
sometimes it does work.
Oh yeah.
Like I fishing. So I fish a drop. I probably caught like this year. I probably caught 1,000 fish on a drop shot at least. And there's, I have found that. Granted, this is how I fish now. But in the past, before I fished that way, I found that 98% of the bites that I get on a drop shot happens either as it's falling or it hits the bottom and I move it once and then boom, there it is.
Yep. You get smoked.
So
Yeah.
in my mind, if that was where 98% of my bites happen, I might as well do that as many times as I can
keep doing it, yeah.
rather than spend 5 minutes dragging it back when there's a 98% chance it's going to happen in the first second of that cast.
Right,
So
And
exactly.
the funny thing is
get
because
as
you're
many of
not
those as
catching a
possible.
bunch of tiny little fish either. You're catching good fish.
Sometimes.
most of the time.
I caught a 7-8.
Yeah.
7-8. Granted, it was like 6 months ago, but
Still got one.
Yeah. Hey DJ, thank you for joining, buddy. Glad you could finally make it. So I know we kind of went from like Andrew's point into a little bit of a deeper dive into a specific, I guess, approach. But why don't you go ahead and elaborate on your preferred methods or speed and why it is? So, like I know you just kind of touched upon it, but continue to elaborate, not just for smallmouth but largemouth too.
me?
Yep.
Oh. So everybody knows I fish fast. I don't ever fish slow, probably to a fault. I think that so take whatever I say with a grain of salt because of that, but I probably am way too far on the spectrum of fishing fast. But when I think fishing fast, I think there's kind of like 3 definitions in there. It's like using moving baits and reeling fast and using baits that move fast. I think that's one thing. I think another thing is moving your boat fast, where you don't necessarily have to be using moving baits. Like that's drop shot.
Kind of forcing yourself to hit spot.
Right,
spot,
like
spot,
your drop,
spot,
yeah,
spot,
like
spot,
with
spot.
something with a drop shot. Like I will not keep my boat in one spot and just be like, I'm gonna do this and then drag it back into this and drag it. But like I'm going down the bank and trying to get it into as many spots as I can and cover as much water as I can. And I think the other thing is our difference in spending a lot of time in one area and picking it apart and then running and gunning, which is what I do. I always run and gun to a fault. Where I think in regards to running and gunning, my approach is I don't really want to fish for fish that I have to force to bite, I guess is my thought. Like if I'm fishing Winnipesaukee, this time of year when I'm on Winnipesaukee, I will not stop unless I see that there's fish there.
Yep.
And I won't stop if I see one fish. I need to see fish doing the thing that I want them to be doing, which is relating to the bottom or in like a feeding mode. You can tell when they're feeding
Oh, yeah.
Big
on your
arches
graph.
coming up on
Right.
it.
So I won't stop unless I see that because I feel like I've spent enough time on there that I know eventually I will find that. Like it may take 10 spots, but eventually I'll find it. And then when I find it, I'll catch 30 fish in that school rather than trying to convince 2 fish to bite from a school where they're not active and not wanting to bite. So I think it's like a time management thing where for me, I spend my time trying to find fish that want to bite rather than trying to convince fish to bite, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
it does.
that's
I convinced them.
that's my yeah. I mean, and it's
Come on, you little bastard.
but the thing is, the thing is like this year I've probably had like 10 or 12 days where I've caught more than 40 fish, but
I've done it once.
but my average size is probably like 2 pounds, and your average size is probably closer to like 3.5 or something like that. And that, I think that's the difference, is that you get more consistent quality because those are the fish that usually don't want, like, there's not a school of 4-pounders out there just going nuts.
That's true.
So you're
always.
getting a lot more of those fish, where I'm waiting until I find, like, at this point, like, I want to catch 4-pounders, but like I'd rather go out and catch 10 2-pounders than 1 4-pounder, but that's just me. Like, there are a lot of people
catch a couple 2-pounders and then one big fish.
right.
And
Yeah, I mean,
I try to find the happy
I
that'd
would
be
too.
the ideal day.
I would too. But like there are a lot of people that would rather go out there and catch 1 4-pounder and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Like
just go for the one
when
big
compared
fish.
to a bunch of small ones. Like
Right.
that doesn't
Yeah.
bother me. Like I just want to set the hook.
Yeah. So, don't we all?
There's a question in the chat that I want to go to because that is an excellent point. But first, for those that are watching, again, for the show that I missed, hi, thank you for watching. Greatly appreciate y'all being here and supporting us. Everybody take a second, just hit like on the stream. It literally takes 1 second. Just give it a little click. It helps immensely. Staunch Beast Crew, our buddy Kyle. This is actually a really great question because it's something I never thought about until this moment that he wrote it. Is fishing the fall then recasting, but staying in the same area, same spot, truly fishing fast? I guess it depends on your perspective. And in the past, I would have said no. In my opinion, that would not be fishing fast. That's being thorough. You're picking apart a spot very meticulously and thoroughly. But now, because of the way my fishing is adjusted, I would consider that fishing fast. Like, to me, slow is slow across the board. I am honed in on one spot, one particular rock pile, and I'm going to hit that thing 30 times without the boat moving around, and I'm going to take my time on every single one of those drops. And then I guess there would still be like moderately slow, where, like to Kyle's point, where you're fishing fast in the sense of drop, a couple twitches, reel up, drop, a couple twitches, reel up, but you haven't moved the boat. You're just trying to pick apart a larger area versus, instead of a 30-foot diameter rock pile, you're fishing a 300-foot cast radius all around, well, 150 foot.
I think that it's a mistake to not do that. Like, like when I say that I'm making a lot of pitches and stuff with a drop shot, I'm not saying that I'm driving the boat. I know Stefan said that, which I guess I do, but I hope that I'm not just driving the boat 20 miles an hour down the bank and being like, one drop shot cast here and then 50 yards later another drop. Like, if I'm going around a dock or something, I will pitch to every side of the dock as I'm going by, but I'm not going to pitch to the side of the dock, let it sit for 5 minutes like Andrew, drag it, eat a sandwich, drag it, and then cast an inch to the side of that and do the same thing. Like, I'll get a drop here, move on.
The thing is, though, those bigger fish, they don't usually bite on the first bite.
It's very true.
Right.
And that's exactly what I was saying. That you get that higher quality of fish.
You get their attention on the first 2 to 3 casts, and then they really start to entice them, and then they will come up and bite eventually. 3 to 4 casts, 5 casts sometimes.
It's just sometimes about that approach angle. It's about that approach angle. You see, just sometimes you just got to put it just to the right angle and coming in from the right side, and I'm sure it varies, but it could just be a matter of like literally drop it right in front of their nose and they're like, oh my god, that's easy, or versus like
They
like
see
here
it.
on their peripheral, like what the hell?
They know it's there. They see it, but if they see it the right angle, they're like, man, if that fucking thing comes any closer, and you get it right in front of their face, they're not going to resist it. They're just going to be gone.
There's so many schools of thought to it. And to the chat, David, our buddy Deej, he said he personally uses a buzzbait as fast as possible to get a reaction bite, and I have absolutely amazing success. I can vouch for him. I've seen that firsthand. It is incredible how many big fish he's gotten from working that thing incredibly fast. Like, I think you're using a high speed ratio too on that, a 7.2, not a 6.3, or you're burning a 6.3 to 1 ratio on that reel. But I mean, like, just, and then things still get smoked, but he catches big fish doing it too. But that's
Some baits are made to fish fast, though.
right, and that's reactionary versus like being thorough. That's kind of where I want the conversation to go to at some point.
And where you draw the line, where whether you're fishing for the reaction or you're fishing to
Right.
get them to bite.
Yep. So my preference when it comes to fast, slow, whatever, I'm happy in anything. I think I've said this to everybody, every single person I've fished with, and every time I'm on this stream, like, what I love to do when I'm out fishing is the chess match. I like to figure it out. So, years ago, especially talking to our buddy Slaunch Beast Crew and like other people, I used to be like Dennis and fish wicked fast, but coming by bigger fish was really hard for me. And everybody said, slow down. Oh, how slow? The moment you think you're going slow enough, go slower. And that's like a really old saying, but it speaks volumes for how true it is. So I started getting more comfortable, and yeah, my quality went up, but my quantity went way down. So there's some give and take, at least with my specific fishing style, that seems to lend itself to either one or the other. It's rare that I can get a big bite or two and numbers. It seems I'm either catching a ton of 2-pounders and less, or just a couple of like good quality fish. My preference is whatever works best for that day. I don't care. I like to figure them out. And my biggest point to that was, I guess at this point now, if I had to choose, I would like to fish a little bit slower, because I do want that quality bite over the quantity. But I'm quick to adjust because I just want to figure them out. Like Dennis said, I just want to set the damn hook. So, Tuesday instead of right, because
and
like, if you could just slow down a little bit, that bigger quality bite's gonna come by. But sometimes it's just not in the cards for the conditions for that time. So, case in point, Tuesday, like, the conditions were ideal, I thought, to get like a good, just kind of shallow water pitch and bite. And it's funny because actually Slaunch Beast Crew was at a different pond not too far away, and he hammered him pitching it, and he caught a couple of giants. I think he caught a handful of giants, but I couldn't make it work where I was. But really paying attention to what was going on and what was presenting itself, like, okay, opposite end of the spectrum, man, get something fast moving, go reactionary, and just start burning it. And my cranking reel is a 6.3 to 1, but I'll bomb it out and just burning it, and all of a sudden just get smoked. I'm like, okay. And actually, the very first fish I caught, I legitimately only got 3 cranks into it. I was talking to my kids, I barely put any tension on my line, and felt like 2 wobbles, and then it just got smoked. My second one bit it right at the boat underneath my feet, and the third one was like, just, exactly what you'd imagine, halfway on the cast, like at its perfect point, going through the grass and stuff. So if I had to choose, I would still like to go a little slower, because the quality has definitely been more consistent for that.
You see that comment? Video is out, but volume is there.
What the hell? All right, hang on, I'll fix it. That's weird.
Whoa, it's weird.
That's a first.
With Frozen.
Did the camera die? Boy, I hope not.
Not be good. Well, you can keep talking to me, Andrew. I'll figure it out.
Hi. I lost the train of thought there. No video.
No.
Okay, so the problem is, for people that are watching, I have to unplug the webcam, plug it back in, but that might really screw up the stream. How long have we been doing this now? 9 months? This is the first time this happens?
Yeah.
It's a new one. I don't know how to troubleshoot it.
Unplug it. See ya.
Gamble.
And plug it back in.
It's probably not going to be good. It's probably not going to be good at all.
Sean's face looks funny though.
Yeah, it stopped on a good Sean face here. Oh.
Finish it like. Oh,
Yeah.
whatever you're saying.
Hmm.
Oh, there's a little screen in the corner.
Yeah, that's weird. Why are we on the little screen and not? Oh,
Yay! Hey.
All right, I gotta figure it out. Just gotta give me a second.
It's still there.
I love that it's still your thinking face.
Oh.
Oh, God. Why? Camera, come on! Are you kidding me?
You're cut out.
Yeah.
This is fun, DJ says.
Screw you, DJ.
Hello?
Uh-oh.
Oh. And it's turning blue.
So the problem is,
Here we are.
this is not good. I'm not gonna lie. There's just no other way to put it.
Why is it like cut off a third of the screen?
Because it's not at 1080p. And I don't know how to fix that on the fly. Just bear with us for a moment, please. If you guys want to keep talking for a second while I fix this. I know it's gonna look really wonky in the video, but just give me a minute. I can fix it, I promise.
Do we know that they can still hear us? Can
Kyle.
everybody still hear us?
I think you can. They should be able to.
Nobody's answering. I don't
It
know.
takes a second.
Obviously, no, they should be able to hear you. I can see the mic is still feeding back properly. So.
Yeah? They're just ignoring me.
Man, risk it.
Okay. They're saying yes.
Alright.
Saying yes. They can hear us.
Good.
So, well, while I'm fixing the video, at least the audio's still good. Why
There
don't
you
you
go.
guys,
So what somebody said, I wonder Rouge Trader?
Rogue Trader,
Rogue Trader.
Rogue Trader.
I wonder if Dennis can figure the pattern better, quicker by trying different techniques.
there you go. I'm taking the mouse back.
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean it's
Definitely is a thing.
I think I think that it's unwise to go out and start out with no, like, if you're at a lake that you know and you know where they should be,
Right.
and you know that it's the conditions and all that, then I think you can start out fishing slow and have it be a decent idea because you know they should be there.
Right.
But if you go to a new pond or something like that, I think starting out fishing really slow is probably not the best option because you have no idea what they're doing.
Right,
And if
or-
they're not doing the first thing you try, you just don't have time to try other things.
Right.
So
I mean, in that case, I wouldn't sit there with a jig
right.
and toss into the friggin' open nothing where I don't know where anything is.
Right. So I think to Trader's point that, yeah, if you're fishing a place with little information, then you should start with something where you can
Cover water.
cover water and figure out what's going on in the lake and try to see if you can pinpoint some sort of pattern or some sort of technique that they're really keying in on.
But at the same time, like we've had in the previous videos from months and months and months ago, we had that video saying how do you break down new water. And I would, same thing, like you said, go to a new place that you've never been to before. I would go on Google Maps, I would go to Avionics, I would go use those resources and figure out where rock piles are, where there's humps, where the points are doing, what the body of water has for options to fish. And I will go work those spots with a jig if I know they're there. If I go to a new body of water that I don't know anything about, haven't looked anything up on, I will fish faster to find those fish and where they would be.
It's fair.
So I don't always fish slow.
Oh, go ahead and take it.
Take
Yeah.
what?
You took the mouse.
Oh, sorry. I was just scrolling down. How would you break down a river right now after the rain if you've never been? I don't fish rivers, so that's...
How would you break down a river? I would work every single current break there is.
Yeah, I know that if it fishes anything like a lake, so I know I fish Champlain a lot, areas of Champlain where there is current, and it's kind of, I don't know why it's not a river, but it has current, and when the water's rising like this a lot, I know it pushes them very shallow. It'll flow stuff into the water. It'll put some water on areas that aren't normally covered in water, and that'll usually get the bait fish to move up there, and it'll get the crawfish to move up there and stuff. So if it was me and I was going to a river and the water had risen, I would fish as shallow as I could.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, it's just like a pond. Like, you go to a pond after we get, like, 3 or 4 inches of rain, and, fish like new water, they're going to probably be up shallow, or they're going to be down deep.
It depends on, if it's like an extreme.
Right.
I found that, like, after that, not the hurricane, but, like, we had a couple of weekends where we got, like, 5 inches of rain.
Right.
And normally I would expect them to go shallow, but I actually found the opposite on those. Like, it was almost too much flux
Right.
up on the shoreline, and they actually moved out deeper to, like, more stable conditions.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot, though. This year's been kind of weird with the rain and everything too.
This year has
They've
been
been up and down, up and down, up and down. I think they're just kind of stuck in a perpetual, like, I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
I killed it for a second.
We're gone.
There we go. Yes! I am the man!
There it is.
I don't know if I'd say that.
You're a man.
Well, that was different.
Live stream on how to find rock piles on Avionics.
It's an easy one.
I mean, you can't really see rock piles on Avionics, but you can see the humps where they are, unless they have them marked.
Yeah.
Like buoys, like
Sometimes you could see them on
I mean-
Google Earth and stuff.
like
Yeah.
40, 50 foot deep rock
Yeah,
piles.
yeah.
That's kind of hard to do on Avionics, unless there's like a visible hump in the middle of nowhere. There may be rocks on it.
I had a terrible time fishing in New Hampshire, but I am new to bass fishing.
Read it out loud. Come on. Doug. Go ahead.
Did you just call me Doug?
No, I was going to say
His name's
Doug's
Doug.
comment. Doug said, how to turn...
Doug?
Oh, hey, Deej and Sanch, you guys should talk offline too. And you can probably figure out why. Sanch knows why. Deej, you can probably figure out why. Anyway, Doug asked, had a terrible time fishing in New Hampshire this year, but I'm new to bass fishing. My nephew's on a college bass team and said I should fish a Senko, not crank in the weeds. What do you think? That's truly the difference between fishing slow versus fishing really fast. About Senko, to me, is about as slow it gets.
Cinco is slow as smell.
Yeah, seriously. Unless you're fishing it T-rigged with a weight. But if you're fishing like wacky rig, that is slow. So slow. It's like the world's worst countdown. It's like watching paint dry.
I love it.
I know, it's effective. It's great. And actually, one of my kids on the high school team for tryouts caught the biggest fish on Tuesday. 3 pounds, 13 ounces.
Nice.
Just slinging a Senko.
I mean, they work. They catch fish.
But for my opinion, you should be fishing both in the weeds, especially right now. Like, I used to do a ton of cranking, and it's funny because it's something that I know I've talked about with Dennis several times this year. I talked with Andrew about it several times this year. I've brought it up several times over the last few years. Hey,
Sorry.
I've been trying to get back into crankbaiting. When I first started learning new things, I got really good with it, and I was really confident, and then I found other techniques that were better. I had 2 bad seasons. I stopped doing it about 4 or 5 years ago on a regular basis. But when I was doing it consistently, this was my favorite time of the year. When the grass is at its thickest, and I could work a crankbait out on the outside edges or deep grass, getting it down over the top of it. Absolutely one of my favorite things to do. And then I had 2 ponds that got overrun by weeds, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time, so I didn't really know how to adjust to that. And like that, my deeper offshore, which really wasn't that deep or offshore, in hindsight, just kind of dried up. So I had to like shift what I was doing. I started fishing shallower, but both. I mean, honestly, what you're doing, like you fish both in the grass, that covers both ends of the spectrum, and you're golden.
Yeah. If you're new to bass fishing, Cinco it's a good choice.
Yeah.
It's easy to use. You don't need to worry about a lot of technique with it.
No.
Whenever anybody posts anything online and says like, "Oh, I just need to catch a fish. I've never tried it before,"
Right.
I always say,
Throw a
"Wacky,
Senko.
yeah, right. Wacky rig a Senko. You can fish in any pond and catch a fish with a Senko."
Yeah.
I think that a crankbait around grass is not a super complicated technique, but there is a level of you have to have the right kind of crankbait that is brushing the grass but not getting hung up in the grass, and there is a technique to it of using the grass to trigger a reaction bite that you kind of need to get a feel for, and it's definitely something that you can, like, you're not born with the skill. Like, you can definitely get that, you can learn that over time. But if you're just going out there and trying to catch a fish, and you can't do much better than a Senko if you're just starting out, I think.
Right.
That's how most of us started fishing, right? Was it something
Pretty
like
much.
a Senko?
Except for me, I didn't even know what it was. That was the first year. I
was actually throwing Texas rig tubes, which was weird.
That's not weird. I know a lot of guys that do that, and they do really well with it. They
That's
still
what I
do
was
it.
doing. Bobby Stark brought me out, and that's what he had put me on. I was like, okay, catching fish after fish. I was like, this is great.
I know people that kill it with that. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining, dude.
How do you fish Greenfield with a crank?
So,
Don't.
Doug again, yeah, how do you fish Greenfield with a crank? So, my point I just said, like back when I was learning and I was cranking a lot, and I had one of my favorite ponds that is Greenfield. that place, especially in the fall, as the water was starting to cool down and the perch started becoming much, much, much more active, and they were kind of moving up into that grass, I would work at the time I thought, deep diving jerkbait or crankbait in perch pattern, and I would hammer fish after fish after fish after fish. And it was one of my favorite things to do. And then the milfoil got out of control there. Now you can't do it. So now you have to kind of change your approach to how you fish there, just because there's so much weeds. You know, now you really got to go weedless. There's other things that swim that can still get it done. Case in point, something I wanted to talk about tonight. Swimbait with just a belly weighted hook. You can get it with an, actually Andrew, right by the knife right there. There's some, nope, left. The hooks. Yes, sir. So you can just do regular old belly weighted beast hook.
Oh, flashy swimmer.
And then you can do flashy swimmer to help just give it a little bit more pizzazz. I wish I had them. I forget what company makes them, but it's basically a blade like that, like a willow leaf blade on basically like a rubber, I don't even know, trailer, for lack of a better way to put it, but like an open eye ring. So you could, if you wanted to, you could turn this into a flashy swimmer. You put it around the hook point, and it just sits back here, and you got your little tail spinner behind it. And it's nice, because then you don't have to buy 2 different hooks. You can just keep buying all your belly-weighted hooks, and if you want flash, just slide that thing on. Works great. And Doug, thank you very much for the donation, buddy. Greatly appreciated.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Doug, if you're fishing Greenfield with a crankbait, you can't fish it through top to bottom weeds. That's it can't be done, really.
No, it doesn't.
You need, if you're fishing grass with a crankbait, your best situation is that you're using a crankbait where the grass doesn't go all the way to the surface, and you're using something that dives deep enough to just kind of brush the top of that grass, and kind of every now and then get a little bit hung in it so you can rip it out. But you don't want it to be constantly just, bogging down in the grass. So it's tough to fish it when it's top to bottom weeds, like a place like that. If you want to use a crankbait there, then you got to find that edge where the weeds kind of really dissipate, and there just isn't, it's not as thick, and then really focus on that. That's where you should focus with a Senko too. But just know that you're not doing anything wrong with a crankbait if you're not doing well in the really, really thick stuff there. It's not really the intention of that bait.
Right. Don wants to know, what do you fish that on? Your rod setup?
For a crankbait, depends on the crankbait. If I am fishing around grass and I'm using a shallower running crankbait, fishing around like grass and wood and cover and stuff like that, I'm using medium action rod. I don't ever use medium heavy really on a crankbait. I'm using 7-foot medium action rod, 12-pound fluorocarbon. If I'm fishing more open water, or I need to get the crankbait deeper, if I'm using a deep diver, even if it's like a big 6XD or something, I'm still using 7-foot or a 7.2 medium action rod, but I go down to 10-pound fluorocarbon.
I literally do the same thing. I have 2 rod setups with literally the exact same setup. So actually, I had the same setup, and I snapped a rod this year. First day with the Ghost, from the 45-inch Ultrex to the 52-inch Ghost, and we were up on a lake. This woman's boat died, and she was getting blown. we thought we heard something, and I looked over, and then she's just like leaning on the front of her boat, looking at her phone, and I looked at him, and I was like, "Did she yell?" And he looked. I don't know. All right, go back to fishing. And I kept looking over for what, maybe like 2 or 3 more minutes, nothing. And I look back over, and she's like, "Hey!" So I'm like, "All right, we gotta go." We ripped up my trolling motor, and because everything's longer now, and the kickstand for it was shifted a little bit, my rod was in a spot that is normally safe.
Straight to the center. Like,
Right between the butt grip, the split grips.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, and that was my Team Lose Custom Pro Speed Sticks. That's their $230 rod. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
But I just ordered a new one, so it's all good. And yeah, I literally do the same thing. 10-pound if I'm going to go a little bit slower, or if I'm working on harder structure. 12-pound, and then 10-pound for literally everything else. I'm just going like open water. I will even change it up from fluoro to fluorocarbon coated monofilament for colder water when it's like less than 45 degrees, because it helps stay more naturally buoyant. Not perfect, but better than mono, which will keep floating, and fluoro, which will sink. So
oh, he's talking about the belly weighted Swimbaits.
Oh, well, we can
Well,
have to use sir because
I have a
this man has been hammering him lately on this setup.
7'6" heavy fast with a 6:3 to 1 ratio.
Yes, 6'3".
I think it's 6'3 to 1. And honestly, I don't even swim it. I cast it out, let it sink, and I eat it off the bottom, just like a jig. That's why this is pretty much getting into, I mean, not just getting into swim baits, but really starting to throw swim baits. I like these because you can fish them like a jig. And that's exactly how I fish them. Just like a jig. Cast it out
Don't raise
along the grass or in the rocks. And it'll come up and eat that thing. Sometimes swimming it a little bit, just along the bottom and stopping it.
Yeah, for the most part, just straight up letting it soak, and then a little drag, pop.
Drag. Yeah, just like a jig.
Same
Yeah,
thing. And it's been killing it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a question from Chad, who's watching. He texted me, when it comes to cranking, glass or known parabolic rod, like a St. Croix, where you can just pin them. So glass or any parabolic rod. I don't crank enough to answer that. How about you?
I want a parabolic rod when I'm cranking, particularly when not all medium action rods are equal. Some of them are medium action, but they have a faster tip or something like that. I think when I'm fishing shallow with a square bill or something, I want that faster rod where I can really yank them out of whatever cover they're in. But if I'm fishing a deep crankbait or something like that where there isn't much for them to get into and then the crankbait is a lot heavier, I want that big parabolic action, because when you use bigger crankbaits, you lose a lot of fish on the first jump, because you'll hook them. You're usually making very long casts with a big crankbait. You're usually fishing deeper water. You don't always get the best hookup, which you would think you want a stiffer rod to get the hooks in, but you're using treble hooks. So if you use a stiffer rod, you're just going to rip them out. So what will happen if you don't have a parabolic rod is those fish will, pin them a little bit, and then they'll come up and jump, and they'll get to use the weight of the crankbait, and they'll just spit it at you. So if you have a parabolic rod, it can really absorb some of that jump, and it keeps that constant pressure on when they're coming up. It doesn't let them create slack when they're up and in the air, and kind of let them throw the crankbait at you. So parabolic is important if you're fishing heavier, deeper crankbaits. I think not as important if you're fishing a square bill or something like that. They're lighter. You're fishing around cover. You get a better hook set in them. You're shallow.
Right.
But I think that the deeper and the heavier, parabolic becomes really important. And glass is parabolic, so that's the same thing.
Right. For the chat, keep the questions coming as we're going through. I do have a couple of more topics that I kind of want to further drill down into fast versus slow and favorite techniques and all that. So that's actually what I want to jump into next. But again, keep the questions coming. Again, for those that are here that haven't done it yet, if you could quick drop a like on the stream, that helps more than you could know. I mentioned it at the beginning of the stream. I'll mention it again. Anybody that's willing to donate, it helps immensely. I think now we're at $340 towards our $1,000 goal for a nice HD camera that won't shut off randomly like that one did. And that'll solve a lot of problems. And we can get 4K on it, so the quality be great. You can either do it directly to YouTube or down in the video description below. There's a link to Venmo and to PayPal. So whatever suits your fancy, but no pressure. Doug, thank you very much, buddy.
Doug, I like the way you think. With the
Get a
pizza and everything. Ooh.
We should legitimately do that one night. If someone really donates, actually, I know a bunch of streamers that do that. They have Grubhub set up, so they'll be streaming, and all of a sudden, an order of food just slides in. And they're like, "Hey, thanks."
That would be amazing.
We should put a Grubhub link for Andrew.
Chicken piccata, by the way.
Do you remember living in a town with one Grubhub driver?
No, there's a few.
Is there?
Yep.
I thought there was only the one. Yeah, you probably know them all by their first name now, don't you? Hey, Dougie! That's the wife and kids. Anyway. All right, so the question I want to ask for both of you, and Andrew, we'll start with you. What are your favorite techniques for when you're fishing fast? We'll say number 1 and number 2. Your top 2 for fishing fast, both largemouth and then smallmouth.
Largemouth fast.
Jake dragged on the bottom.
Very fast. Yeah, 3 ounce
Yeah, at that
jig,
point,
just
you're like-
cranking that thing. No, Probably spinnerbait and
Oh,
spinnerbait,
Party foul.
chatterbait in one. Thanks. Let me get it for you. Spinnerbait, chatterbait, I'd put that in one. And because if they're not biting one, they'll bite the other. Usually.
Yep.
And crankbaits like square bills. If it's super windy, I'll move down shoreline, just cranking a square bill, smacking off as much stuff as I can.
chatterbait / spinnerbait, and then followed by square bill.
And square bill, and those
For
pretty much.
largemouth.
I can't really think of anything else fast. I fish fast with like.
I'll go one further. For square bill, what's your favorite size and color?
Size, what was it?
Because I think I see it
1.5?
hanging up on the wall right there.
That's literally the one.
Go ahead, grab it.
It's a little big, but
I think that's the 2.5.
yeah, this is the 2.5. I like what's it, the 1.5?
Or
the 2?
Actually, I think that's the 2.5.
This is the big one.
Yeah.
I like the smaller one of this for smallmouth. This is like my go-to smallmouth square bill, and I rip this thing across flats with like shallow rocks and sand flats or whatever, just to try to get them a reaction bite.
Yep. Sorry if it gets a little loud opening the door, but there's a big fan right there. Just let
Yeah.
me know if it gets like cumbersome. Rogue Trader, thank you very much for the donation, dude. Greatly appreciate it. We're kicking ass tonight on donations, guys. Like seriously, can't tell you how much we appreciate
Should
it.
have
Help.
brought that out for you.
Like it
Sorry.
helps.
It's
So now you got you covered two. You covered two baits for largemouth, which one was a crossover smallmouth.
yeah,
So if not the square bill for smallmouth, what's the other go-to for a faster moving? Well, I think I know this answer.
fast moving one.
Faster moving bait for a smallmouth. What's your favorite aside from the square bill?
Aside from square bill. Oh yeah, jerk bait. I mean, I can also work that really slow.
Right, that's the beauty of it. You got the whole end of
I can literally do anything with that.
which I can't wait for him. Well, we already talked about it. And if you're curious about more jerkbait fishing, go back to one of the earlier streams. It was jerkbaits and jigs, and like everybody that has ever talked to me about jerkbait fishing, like slow, man, water really cold, slow, and he's oh look, a fucking 8-pounder, and it's like 42-degree water. So he's an anomaly, an outlier. Call it whatever you want.
Kyle, yeah, the buzzbait or plopper. I mean,
Anomaly.
I haven't really thrown a buzzbait that much.
Dude, that's
Plopper,
another thing that kind of fell by the wayside for me, but I used to do really, really well with a
A lot of
buzzbait.
people do.
Not big on buzzbaits either.
So good. But
It's just not enough time to throw everything you want to throw.
that's the problem.
Not enough
I've only
time.
I
got,
have a couple. I just haven't thrown them because I always go to something different.
yeah.
Like, oh, I want to throw this.
Can't answer your question. That color in clear water too.
The color in clear water too. What, that chartreuse?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. That
Dude.
especially in clear water.
I watched him absolutely. Dude, what did we catch? You must have caught 20 smallmouth on that thing that day. And it's I mean, that's a bit of an outlier for like numbers, and it was a short window too, but I've seen him do it multiple times with that for smallmouth.
That color for me, it just works.
There's
I got all the
something
confidence.
about an obnoxiously bright color for smallmouth that just works killer.
We just had a conversation with who the other day about pink.
Yeah. I forget.
Who? Oh, Eric.
Yep. That's right. On Sunday.
Because he was throwing that big pink freaking glide bait.
Yeah. He's like, oh, smallmouth love it. I was like, yeah, no, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree, and I don't doubt it one bit.
Yeah.
All right, Dennis, your top 2 favorite techniques / baits for largemouth and then smallmouth, specific to this time of the year, because I know it's going to vary greatly, but for right now, we're kind of working that, like, you know, largemouth, they can be anywhere, smallmouth, they're all pretty much deep. What do you got?
Yep. So, fishing fast for largemouth. I think number 1 for me would be chatterbait,
Oh,
especially if you're around grass. Yes.
you mean this thing?
Stealth blade. Yeah. So you can see I have a lot of chatterbaits. The one that I use the most is jackhammer. I think that anytime you're around grass, are you stealing it?
I would throw this for smallies.
Anytime you're around grass, chatterbait is one of the best things that you can do. I'll fish them over the top of grass. I'll fish them kind of through the grass. It's something that you can cast in the trees, you can cast in the grass, you can cover a ton of water. If I'm around a lot of cover, a lot of grass, and I just need to cover water, go down the bank, a chatterbait is almost always the choice that I go with, either this time of year or in the spring. I've caught them on chatterbaits in water that's in the 40s. I've caught them chatterbaits in water that's in the 80s. They bite a chatterbait all the time. It's just how fast you reel it, how slow you reel it. Obviously, the colder the water, the slower, but you can still get a reaction bite, things like that. So chatterbait would definitely be number one. For largemouth, number two would be a medium to deep diving crankbait. I'll show you two. What's happening?
Look at my face.
The emoji I made
I
for
forgot I
him.
made this. I love that.
It's not smiling.
I love that.
There was probably a picture of a
That
fish below
is
that.
my favorite thing that I've seen. So, for largemouth, medium to deeper diving crankbaits are key for me this time of year. If I'm around grass, I'll use this a lot. This is a Megabass Deep X 100. The thing about this, so when I was talking to, I think it was Doug earlier, about fishing over the tops of grass and things like that, one thing that you want when you're fishing over the top of grass is you do really well if you have a crankbait that, I don't know if you can see it, but a crankbait that is narrow and has kind of this longer skinny bill like this. The reason behind that is that as you're reeling it through, this thing is giving you kind of a wide range where it can brush the grass off and kind of go over the top of it. If you have a shorter square bill, it deflects better, but it has less, like, if you look at where the hook is here compared to where the bill is, this has a lot more room to get the grass out of the way without getting hooked on it rather than a square bill. Square bill will come through wood much better than this, but this will go through grass much better than a square bill. So anytime I'm around grass, I like this Deep X 100 or any of these kind of long, slender type crankbaits. Also, this looks exactly like a perch, which is what most of the fish around here are eating.
Inappropriate noises about that.
Yes.
As you can tell, I like perch and green pumpkin colors. I literally have a bunch of baits to show off that are all green pumpkin / perch.
So if I'm, for largemouth, if I'm not around grass, then I'll go with something like this. So this is, this one is an OSP Blitz Max. So you don't have to get a really expensive one like this. But any deeper diving crankbait, this one is all beat up on the front. But they will hammer these things this time of year. You can fish this around grass too, but anytime you can get largemouth on that outside edge beyond the grass, when you start getting rock mixed in, you start getting gravel or sand or things like that, and you just reel that thing down and just kind of slam it into the bottom and let it pause and kind of float up and then crank it down into the bottom. That is a huge technique. I've been catching tons and tons and tons of fish on that over the past few weeks.
Yeah, there's teeth marks all over.
There are a lot of teeth marks on it.
So, backing up really quick before we go any further, a question on this. How does he trim that Zako as far as trailer movement? Skirt looks awfully long.
So
I don't trim mine. I leave it as it is, and it seems to work just fine.
same thing with me. Yeah, I don't trim. So on this isn't a Zako on mine. Zako is very good. This is a Z-Man Razor Shads on mine. But I don't think you have to trim it on a chatterbait. So when you're using a chatterbait, you don't really want your trailer to have any action, because if your trailer has action, the only thing that's going to accomplish for you is throw off the vibration of the blade, and the vibration of the blade is what's giving you bites.
How many times have I said that over the years?
Mm-hmm.
There's very specific trailers that I will not use on any bladed jig, but it varies because of how effective that vibration is, depending between the OG, like the original cheapest chatterbait you can get, and then their elite, and now the jackhammer. Like, depending on what kind of swim bait you throw in the back, it can completely ruin the action on that thing.
Yeah. I mean, the originals, like the cheaper ones, you can get away with throwing a kite tech on there.
Right.
But
Those ones, because they don't really vibrate that much, and it takes them it starts vibrating. Yeah, it starts vibrating halfway back to the boat.
Right.
If you're using a jackhammer, it vibrates the second you engage the
Right.
you don't
reel.
want a tail or a paddle on the back of your swim bait.
Right. So, what am I doing now? Smallmouth?
Yes.
All right. So, for smallmouth,
That looks really good.
my first thing, so I'm going to show you two here. So again, this time of year, it's a crankbait. But if you notice, I'll show this for comparison. So
It's adorable.
this is the crankbait that I was talking about for largemouth. I've caught a lot of smallmouth on it, but if I'm specifically, like if I'm fishing Winnie or if I'm fishing someplace where I'm targeting smallmouth, Champlain or something like that.
Glacial Lake.
Glacial Lake, yeah, Glacial Lake, not as much grass. When there's more of a chance that smallmouth are the target, they'll still hit, they'll hit the hell out of this. But generally, you'll get more bites if you go to a slightly smaller body profile. So if I was fishing specifically for smallmouth, I wouldn't use this one. I would use one of these two. Both of these dive relatively deep. So this one will dive about 15, 16. This one will dive about 12 or 13. But the key is that these are small body crankbaits. So smallmouth will hit bigger baits. They're aggressive. But if you want to go out and catch numbers, which is what I do, then you want to use something that's not going to be intimidating for the smallmouth. And something like this, a smallmouth, and something like this, smallmouth can suck that in like it's nothing. So I think that it doesn't, like I said, these are expensive ones, but you don't have to use anything expensive. Just find a deeper diving crankbait that is smaller body. So the bodies on these are 2 inches or less. This one is less than 2 inches. 2 inches seems to be the key size for a smallmouth. I feel like 2 inches is like the perfect size for them to just get a mouthful of it and not have it decrease the amount of bites that you get or anything like that. This time of year, that would, if I'm fishing fast and the smallmouth are relatively shallow in crankbait range, that would be first choice. Second choice would be a jerkbait. Always.
Yep.
Jerkbait is always something that I'm using. I didn't bring any with me, but jerkbait is a smallmouth killer any month of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I got you, buddy. I even got a bunch of mega bats for you.
I want to come crankbait fishing with you.
Come crankbait fishing with me.
I really want to get into it. I just never. I was planning on doing it this year. I did throw some crankbaits this year, but I never stuck with it.
Mega bass. Customs.
You have a whole section of them, like a whole thing.
I literally have one case dedicated just to Vision 110s
I like that.
because they're that damn good.
They are.
Okay, well, so there are some custom ones in there, like almost that whole back row are knockoffs.
It's a weird looking jerkbait.
Shut up. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't actually want to add those up. They're expensive.
They're expensive.
I've got like $500 in jerkbaits in this one box.
Yeah. Well, they're all stuck together.
God, I hope my wife's asleep.
But
Sorry.
one thing that I think is awesome in the summer is that Mega Best makes the +2.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably the only time that I'll use it, is really when it's hot like that. I know it works in the winter,
Yeah.
but in the winter I found that, I'm sure it works. It's just, for some reason I do better with a +1 in the winter. But in the summer, if I'm fishing a deep crankbait through an area and I've caught 2 or 3 fish, like eventually those fish get used to the cadence of that bait. You could throw another crankbait in there and get 1 or 2 more. But the other thing that I'll do, this thing will go down like 16 feet, something like that, 15, 16 feet on 10-pound line. I'll crank this thing down and let it sit right in their face, and you can usually get a couple good fish doing that too.
I dig it.
That's a big thing for me. So yeah, that's it. I do have a runner-up that I wanted to.
Go ahead. I mean, if you got anything to elaborate on, do it.
It's for largemouth. Oh.
Sure.
So I would say runner-up for largemouth, if you're fishing around grass, is a fluke. So I have a lot of flukes. They're cheap. They work. It's pretty much the most weedless bait that you can throw. They all work. The original, this is a box of just the original Zoom flukes. They're like $1 for like 50 of them.
Yeah, they're super cheap.
Or whatever the price is. The Yamamoto D-Shads work. The KVD Striking ones work. But when I use the fluke, I fish everything fast, but I fish the fluke incredibly fast. And what I'll do with it, I'll rig it same way that Sean has it rigged here, and I'll do the same thing where he's using a really heavy gauge hook. I think that's important. If you use a light gauge hook, 1, you won't get as good of hook set, but 2, it'll take a lifetime for it to sink because you're fishing this weightless, especially these really light ones like the Zoom ones that are low salt. But if you use that heavy gauge hook, this thing will sink pretty good. And when I'm fishing this, almost all the bites that I get will be you jerk it a few times, and then reel it really fast and then stop. And what that does is it gets this to kind of go back and forth, and then it's that the zooming along, and as it's doing that, the tail on these things will
They go wild.
the tail will vibrate just from the water pressure, and then when it stops and it starts to sink, it looks like something that just tried to get away and died. And then that's when 99% of my bites happen on the fluke, especially in the fall. I don't think the color's super important. I know I have a bunch of colors here, but for the fluke, I think as the water gets colder, I seem to do better with like these brownish colors.
Yep.
In the middle of the summer, baby bass seems to work. There's a lot of baby bass. If I'm fishing smallmouth, any silver, I have a bunch of different like silver type colors here. I would not pick one over the other. I think that with a fluke, it's a reaction bite for me. They're not looking at it. You're reeling it really fast right by their face, and it's just, oh, and then they bite it.
Right.
I don't think they have time to say like, it's not the right shade of silver.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about that is it does both. You can fish it incredibly slow, and you can fish it like Dennis does really fast, and you can do both in the same cast. And that's where I do most of my damage with the fluke, especially this time of the year. Depending upon where they are in the grass, and actually, I would even say like post spawn all the way through to even well into the fall. You can get it well up into all of the vegetation and crap like that, right? And you can almost fish it like a Senko at that point. But to his point, I like a heavier gauge hook, so that would be like a superline hook, a Gamakatsu 4/0 superline hook. It's heavy gauge hook, so it's just a little bit heavier than your typical extra wide gap hook, so it helps pull it down in.
Oh, no.
Even though it's weightless, it will get it down the vegetation. If you don't get bit on that initial thing, then I fish it like Dennis on the way back. So I get the best of both worlds. I get down in there, and then I can just rip that thing back, and it just... That is one of my best producing, like tough day fishing techniques right there. And I would actually put that probably at my number 3 as well.
Something for Doug that was talking about fishing green field.
Yeah.
Use one of these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mint pitched into the table.
We cut one of them.
This is my nice dining room table.
No, it's not.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Back it up. Iron Dog, dude, what the hell are you doing here? Thank you very much. He's one of my old gaming buddies.
We don't take euros here.
Have it pine on me, lads. Dan, thank you very much for the donation. This is already turning into one of the best donation streams we've had yet. So guys, thank you very much. We're well on our way. And actually, I had a thought I meant to say earlier. We were just trying to show off all those crankbaits. The best thing about getting a second camera, so a new primary camera, so you can do 4K for this. It'd be 4K 30 frames per second, but that's okay for the stream. I can take the camera we're using currently, and I can set it up over here. I should probably set it up like dead center on the table, and that could be a bait cam. So I can take everything and slide it right in, and I can put it down in the bottom corner just always leave it there. So when we want to show off baits to you guys, just that little bottom corner over here somewhere can be dedicated just to showing off baits. So you can see them a lot more up close and see the fine details, colors, patterns, whole 9 yards. So that's the plan going forward. So again, guys, thank you very much. Before I want to answer my question, but Don Swift asked, am I making a mistake using braided line with a mono leader? Depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, what's the technique? If you're fishing a topwater, then no.
Right. Well, topwater, I would go straight braid. Even in crystal clear water, it works killer. I don't have a problem with it. I know guys like mono, but I still catch smallies on topwater just fishing straight braid, like straight 30-pound braid.
Can you do that with spook, or are you just hooking on the braid constantly?
It depends. Like there's that baby bass one over there.
Yeah.
That I threw on slightly bigger than average treble hooks on that, so that one has been problematic. But any of the stock ones, like that white one, has been an issue.
That's the problem that
I
I've
feel like
had.
you're fishing close to shore, it doesn't matter because they're looking up and they see the trees above you.
Yeah.
I love the bait.
No, I don't mean because they could see the braid. I mean just like there are certain topwater lures where they'll do this and it'll just hook on the braid. If you're using braid, the braid is just limp on the top of the water when you're doing that.
I've never had an issue with that. Sometimes on the cast, it tends to foul up a little bit more.
Maybe it was just the particular topwater that I was using.
Could be. Jeff Wagner asked, do you throw the donkey rig with the fluke? I have never done it, but my coworker, who has already phoned in a couple of questions now, has brought that up multiple times. It's something I want to try. I forget about it every time I'm out there. Have you ever thrown a donkey rig?
Prefer the mule rig? No, I'd want to throw in the donkey rig. No.
The ass rig.
Yeah. That's an inappropriate kind of show level rig, buddy.
Oh, it's
Gross.
Banjo minnow, I can.
Fish for chewing. Nice hammer time. That's what I like to hear. All right, I want to answer my question too because they did theirs. So my top 2 favorite fast-moving techniques for largemouth. Normally I would have said spinnerbait, chatterbait, and I'm not so sure that is up there anymore because last year was tough, and this year that level of tough has continued. So as odd as this is going to sound, my number 1 lately.
Talking about fishing fast though?
Oh, dude, that's when the tow motor's on. Maybe not necessarily high, but I would keep it on like 4 or 5, which for my ghost is pretty fast.
So you're just pitching.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I like how you fish a drop shot. I will go along a grass line. It doesn't matter. Literally vegetation, okay? And I will pick apart every single pocket I go. I'll dunk it in, lift, reel it up, pick the next pocket, and dunk it. And that's how we cover water effectively, fishing kind of fast, but still in a more subtle presentation. Like, to me, that's the best of both worlds. I'm giving them something only on a 3/8 ounce weight, so it's not falling crazy fast. You get the benefit, the weight falls and the bait falls behind it, so it's a little slow, but I'm maximizing the amount of area I can cover wicked fast. And then I fish straight braid when I'm doing that, or I do braid to leader now. So, because I've had, last year when I was doing it, I was missing quite a bit of fish. This year I made the switch, because as we're going through fast, I get too much line, or they're running at me or whatever, because the boat's constantly moving. I never have, the rod being 6 inches away from perfect tension on the line to set the hook. Sometimes I'm way all over the place.
Catch a shark on that hook.
You could catch a shark.
That's just a 4/0 Gamakatsu flipping hook, and dude, that thing is so good.
Shark on that hook.
You fish straight braid?
Yep.
On this? Yeah, it's good. You have to.
So the thing is, I've fished everything on that. I've done straight 15-pound fluoro. I've done straight 20-pound fluoro. I've done 30-pound braid and 50-pound braid.
You haven't had issues with straight fluoro on this hook? You must set the hook like your life depends on it.
That's how I set every hook. And then second to that, oddly enough, is a jig. But to the way Andrew said it, we fish it really fast. I am picking apart structure, but I'll fire it in, I'll wash my line, it hits, jig, pop, nothing. Burn it back, hit the other side of the rock. Burn it back, hit the front side. Burn it back, go back to the first side again. Burn it back, okay, next rock. And I'll just pick it apart. But it's something that, it's a bulky profile. When it sits there, it's a big presentation, right? Because it's a bulky profile. So even though I'm not really doing anything with it, and it becomes a slow presentation in that instance, it's easy to find. I can still move it fast because at that point I'm fishing like a half-ounce jig. Whether it be football head, if it's more open water, or an arky head if I'm fishing the vegetation / hardcover, and I can just pick things apart. For smallmouth, if I'm fishing fast, my number 1 has been and always will be a tube. Although this year really haven't thrown it as much, but a tube with a 3/8 ounce head in it is killer for fishing fast. I can cover a ton of water with a tube, and be really effective too. It doesn't matter if I'm fishing dragging grass, if I'm dragging rocks, shallow, deep, doesn't matter. Like I have caught, I'd almost say, I think the tube is probably my second most producing technique for smallmouth, second only to the drop shot.
Yeah.
It's just, dude, it's
every time I go, I'm trying to tube.
Trying to tube every single time. That's easily my number 1 for fishing fast for smallmouth. My number 2, that's actually a little bit harder because I don't typically fish smallmouth that fast. So I would still say a drop shot would be number 2, and I just speed up the pace at which I'm going.
For you, I'd say a swimbait on the football.
Yeah, swim. Yeah, swimbait on the jig head.
Yeah, but I really don't. I've only done that a couple times though. I thought about it.
Champlain.
The other thing, you know what? I take it back. Spider jig. That's another one that I can fish pretty fast.
Yeah.
And same deal. 3/8 ounce or a half ounce, and I'm moving it pretty fast. Champlain, that's kind of like the exception though, not the norm, for the way I was fishing up there.
True.
And I've had some good years doing it, and I would put it in my top 5, but not my top 2.
Just trying to influence you.
Those, yeah, I mean, especially this time of the year, like those are really, 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 really hard to beat. So those are all my go-tos. I would honorable mention on largemouth to spinnerbait / chatterbait, jackhammer specifically. That has been, the jackhammer's been doing much, much better for me than a spinnerbait as of late. And then also the fluke would be my other honorable mention. And then Yeah, I would probably put the Swimbait as my smallmouth honorable mention, as well as, I would even almost put in. No, I can't put that. I was gonna say shaky head, but nah, it just isn't quite as often as I'd like it to be. Miles, thank you, dude, for the donation. That looks like back-to-back double donations there. Greatly appreciate it, dude.
Sweet.
Swim jig.
Yeah, I forgot some.
So yes, but not this year.
Swim jig.
So when I got out of crankbait fishing, it was because my swim jig and swimbait combo were just dominating everything. It doesn't matter where I was or what I was doing. Same instances where, like, okay, in every instance, in every situation I've been in these conditions, crankbait has been it. And it didn't pan out, but that swim jig and swimbait thing absolutely slayed it. So I just started using that for like 4 years, do you think, Andrew?
Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, it just that bite
I haven't
disappeared.
seen you throw one since.
No, it just I can't get bit on the damn thing, and not for lack of trying. I've got a whole case, like I've got another one of these Plano 3700s dedicated just to swim jigs. I don't even know how many swim baits.
I actually have
There's
a difference of opinion from something. I don't remember which one of you said it, but one of you said something about spinnerbait or a chatterbait, and I actually consider those to not be related. Like, I know a lot of people do that. It's like, instead of a spinnerbait, I'll throw a chatterbait. For me, I think a chatterbait is more, with the vibration that a chatterbait has, I think a chatterbait is more of a replacement for a square bill than it is for a spinnerbait. I think, in my mind,
How about that?
the action that the spinnerbait has of that slow, like, womp, 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 rather than brrr, like, I think that a replacement for a spinnerbait is a swim jig, more so than a
my
chatterbait.
mindset goes spinnerbait, big thump, chatterbait,
More like
some-ish,
little bit less thump,
little
right.
less thump,
Yeah.
but still big presentation.
Yeah.
It's like thump
And
to
then,
rattle.
and then square bill.
I could see that.
Right.
I could see that.
That's
But,
where
like,
I
if
go.
I'm,
Like, what do you think they're gonna bite today? Are they gonna bite the big thump or the little thump or in between?
But
if
we're
I'm-
also fishing a lot of those around vegetation too.
true.
If I'm nowhere
true.
near, like if I'm anywhere near rocks, I won't even think about touching a friggin' jackhammer. Because
Yeah.
that thing, no matter what I do, whatever hard structure I'm at, that thing immediately rolls and hooks. I
Yeah.
cannot get around it. But a spinnerbait, I can fish that shit through anything. It's not an issue.
Yeah, if there's a really windy day and I'm choosing between a spinnerbait or a jackhammer,
Yep.
10 out of 10 times I'll choose a spinnerbait.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't think that they're the same. I think that a jackhammer is what a spinnerbait could be in grass. But I think that, I don't know, I think they're different. I think that
They're 100% different. Everything about them is different.
Right. I think like the flash factor, like especially with a jackhammer where they paint the blades, like you're not really getting any flash. From
No,
like
no.
the blade is for vibration, it's not for flash.
Yeah.
I think that if you want a spinnerbait presence with no flash, you go with a swim jig. And if you're using a crankbait or a square bill or something like that, and they won't react to it, you can go to the jackhammer, and it'll give it just a different presence. It'll be a little more natural, things like that.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yep. No, I wholeheartedly agree. For the way we've been fishing them, like it's not like interchangeable. Like, oh, okay, well, they're close interchangeable. It's like, it's fast moving. It's making a lot of noise and vibration, but this is like pure flash and thump, and you can see it a mile away. Versus,
Soft body square bill.
yeah.
Basically, yes. Yeah.
So it's like,
Pretty much.
depending on what they want, we're fishing opposite ends of the spectrum for a fast moving reactionary bite for something big. So that's why we feel like they're interchangeable from at least my perspective. If I feel like the spinnerbait's kind of close and I'm getting bit but not really committing to it or something, then that's when I would go to a swimbait swim jig. Versus like, I'm not getting bit on the spinnerbait to save my life, but the wind's howling and it's overcast. What the fuck? So I'll try the chatterbait because it's still fast moving. It's on the opposite end of the spectrum, and before you know it, you get smoked, or vice versa.
Yep.
Depending on the time of the year, especially around water temps. Like if it's colder water, then I'm always going to go jackhammer first.
I want to know what the retracted message was.
He was talking. I missed it.
Dangerous.
Oh, here we go. He replaced it.
It sucks.
So Cam said, what I found is if you rig a chatterbait with a cross-style trailer, it tends to get caught up less because it doesn't roll over as much coming over structure. Huh.
What I found is if you... Oh, I'm sorry.
I do that with a
Never thought about that.
I do that with a swim jig, not. I mean, I haven't experimented enough with Chatterbait trailers. I basically use a Zaco or a Razor Shed. What I do with swim jigs, I'll rotate through. Like, I'll try a Swimbait, I'll try a Rage Craw type trailer with the kicking.
Yep.
I'll try one that has like no action and just see if they just want that straight, like the skirt kind of pulsing through the water. But
Yep.
Should experiment more with the Chatterbaits.
Well, so I have been, especially by Swimbait trailers, because what we brought up earlier was depending upon what trailer you're throwing, right? It can
Just don't
blow
want
it out.
Yeah, you don't want a lot of action.
And for
Usually.
right, and for the first 2 years I was fishing the Jackhammer, I tried Kitech, like right off the bat, because that's what I throw with things.
Yeah.
And it sucked. Like I could tell it was completely killing the action.
Yeah.
And then I
Fighting
went
against each other.
right,
Yeah.
and then I went to Walmart one day looking for something, and they had the Striking Rage Swimmers. So I picked those up, and I mean it's a Kitech knockoff to an extent, but it's a stiffer plastic, and the ribs on it are just a little more subtle. They're not quite as deep, or maybe they are deep. I forget. Whatever. There's a distinct difference in the overall shape and depth of ribs between Kitech and the Striking Rage Swimmer. So one day we felt confident about the conditions for black and blue. I felt really good about the Jackhammer, but I didn't have anything other than that Rage swimmer. So I threw it on thinking like, oh, I'll give it a shot, but generally this hasn't worked for me. But whatever the difference was in that profile, even though it's technically the same bait, it works mint on a Jackhammer.
It just doesn't have as much.
I think it's more than anything that it's a stiffer plastic, that marriage works between that formulation, that size. Because I only done it with, I think the striking one is 3.5 inches versus the 3.8 inch Kitech on the fat swimmer.
Kitechs are also extreme. Like Kitechs the thing is kicking the entire width of its body.
Right.
That's why they don't work as well in super cold water either. Because
Right. Damn it, Mike.
Say Jackhammer, I felt that.
Iron Dog, you're absolutely right. It does absolutely depend on water clarity too.
I don't.
I think I do when it's really clear water. Spinnerbait does better for me than Jackhammer.
Yeah, but I've caught spinnerbait fish in mud.
Well, spinnerbait is just way
is-
more versatile. Like to me, it works killer regardless. But when it gets to clear water, I feel like they're a little bit more finicky. And I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what, but I tend to do better on a spinnerbait than a Jackhammer when it's ultra clear water.
True. Yeah. If you have the right blades on.
Right. Depending on the conditions and everything.
I basically won't throw a spinnerbait unless it's really windy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I won't pick one up unless it's like howling. But I did throw one the other day.
In what kind of conditions?
Dead, slick, calm,
But what was it above?
sunny.
Really? What's
But-
wrong with you?
But did you get one random fish, or did you
No,
get
I got like 3 in a row.
Okay, well then that's
And they're all around
That's
like
good
2.5 to 3 pounds.
That's something.
That is what we call an outlier, Andrew.
I am an outlier.
You're a baked potato.
I'll bake something.
Spinnerbait for me, either ripping wind, and I don't care whatever the rest of the conditions are. If the wind's ripping, I have one tied on.
Yep.
Or, especially in the summer, post spawn, if it's raining, so you get that overcast, it doesn't have to be windy. As long as I either have overcast conditions and or wind, I always have a spinnerbait.
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're thinking.
Rogue Trader. I don't think it's actually Rogue. I think you're right. Maybe it is Rouge.
Rouge.
What's your drop shot setup?
So yes, it's a spinning rod. I'm actually in the market for a new spinning rod because I'm not a huge fan of the ones that I've been using. But for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been using a Lose custom light. You probably know the name better than I do. It's the one that's black and it has like the white handle.
Oh,
It was like the best one that they made like 3 years ago.
Yep, I can't remember off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
so it's like I don't think they even make it anymore, but it's like a Lose custom light. It's a 6'11", I want to say, or 6'10".
Short.
Yeah,
A lot of guys do that though.
Yeah.
6'9", 6'10".
yeah, and I want to say that's the same rod that I use for drop shot and a Ned rig right now. The reel that I use is a Daiwa Tatula. I use that on most of my spinning reels, or for most of my spinning reels. I like the drag on that. For the line, I use 10-pound braid I use 10-pound Suffix 832 braid, and then I go to a 6-pound Sunline fluorocarbon leader. Size 1, usually size 1 drop shot hook. It doesn't matter what brand you use. The Trocar ones are really good. The weight, it depends on how deep you're fishing. If you're fishing really deep at a place like Squam or Winnie or something like that, 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce can be good. 98% of the time, I use a 3/16 ounce. I like the slower fall on mine. I think that is a difference between us, where Sean casts out and then drags it a lot. I don't drag it really when I fish it. I just want that fall and then hop it a couple times and then I reel it in and do it again. So I want my bait to take a little while to get to the bottom. So that's why I use 3/16. Yep. I've
Like half ounce, get me down there.
no, yeah. So I caught
10 feet deep.
last fall I was catching smallmouth in 55 feet of water with a 3/16 ounce weight. Just they were biting it as it was dropping down.
Makes sense though.
Yeah, because I
Getting
mean
them all
they're
suspended.
right, so that they're not always sitting right on the bottom. Like sometimes they're 10 feet off, and I think that thing just kind of like.
Yep.
The bait depends. I like the Z-Man trick shots a lot. I use those a lot. I've been kind of experimenting. Thank you. I've been kind of experimenting with the flat. What are they called? The flat minnow or the flat.
Oh, the Max and
Yeah,
flatworms.
the Max and flat. Yeah, I've used those. I bought them on eBay for like $100, and they're okay. I wouldn't spend any more than they cost in a store for them. I have found that the Z-Man ones have outperformed them in every time that I've tried to compare the two of them. I think that for a drop shot bait in the summer when the water is warm, I like Z-Man because it floats.
Yep.
Other companies make things that float, but that floating gives it more action, and it gives it it's you can work it a little bit faster, and it seems to do better when the water's cold. I mean, when the water's warm. If the water's cold, I want something that's a little more neutral. There are some other baits that you can use a Senko or something like that on. It's something that will just kind of have a neutral buoyancy where it gets down there fast and then it just kind of hovers, something like that. That's usually better when the water's cold, but there isn't like one bait that I use every single time I go out. It depends on if I'm trying to imitate a smelt or a perch or a bluegill or something like that. But you can drop shot anything. It's how much action you want, what the profile is that you're looking for. But yeah.
Especially color too. Color's big.
Color's big.
Depending what specifically for smallmouth, depending what they're keying in on. You know, if they're really honed in on smelt, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna get close to that color. But maybe I would even say actually 7 times out of 10 because I've had. Shut up. No.
You gotta get silver, right? It doesn't have to be.
Not to be the same.
No, it doesn't have to be the same. But yeah, you're right. Like something kind of white or off-white, silver.
Right. They'll bite that
I mean,
100% more than they'll bite green.
Right.
Something.
But there have been some days where like green was the color.
Last
And
time we were up at the factory,
yeah.
you had that color, and I was just a little off, and I could not get bit.
Yeah. But
happens.
it's weird because like especially this year and last year, it's been very key to get really close to that smelt color, whereas in years past, like it was much more, it was almost like 50-50. You could get a green pumpkin or, you know, something just kind of a darker color, and it was a little bit off the beaten path. One color I really like from Beast Coast now is their Goby, which they just came out with, but working with other baits kind of similar to that, you know, where you've got that limit between a dark color and something brighter. The Beast Coast Bankroll, where it's like that green pumpkin, like it's a really almost translucent green pumpkin with a little bit of clear, you know, iridescent purple to it. You know, like
Right.
I don't know, for some reason those colors they work really really good. But now, especially last year or two, like really dialing in much more close to that smelt color has been extremely key, which is something I haven't experienced it being that critical until the last 2 years.
I think that this, like, for some reason, I use Winnipesaukee because I fish there so much, but at Winnie, I found that, like, the last 2 weeks of August through September, like, silver. Like, it's like silver, white, any of those smelty looking colors, you need it or you have a terrible day out there. And then, like, once you get into late September and then into October, like, you can start using greens and stuff again because then they start really eating crawfish and the smelt and all that. And I think that it matters a little less then. But, like, right now, that's when you drive there and it's, like, smelt from top to bottom in 50
Right.
feet of water, and like those fish have only eaten smelt for their last 100 meals. Like they're not gonna. That's what they're keyed in on. Like they get super keyed in on smelt.
Right, especially the depth that everybody's rolling at that point. They just that's really all that's there for them. There might be some perch intermingled here and there, but
Right.
they're mostly suspended, and that's where the smelt like to hang. So that's just meal number 1. 9 times out of 10,
Right.
It's just easier for them because it's right there. They're just following
Unlikely
around.
to find a bluegill in 60 feet of water.
No.
We'll find rock bass.
You could find rock bass.
So, all right, we're talking fishing fast versus fishing slow. Largemouth versus smallmouth. I'll start with you again, Andrew. Let's start.
Question from Dan.
Oh, wait, I missed Dan. Oh, sorry. You're right. I apologize, Dan. So Dan did ask. We got 5 inches of rain here yesterday. It's a small pond. Will fish come in or stay out deep? I've seen both, but more often than not, they come up shallow. Especially if you have water feeding in or feeding out. Like any sort of current like that, especially inlets, money. Get right up in there.
Yeah, I would look shallow. If the water's coming up on grass or something like that,
Yeah.
look shallow. Because
They push.
all those bugs and everything are now going to be in there, and the bluegill are going to be eating the bugs.
Yep.
They should be in 6 inches of water right now.
Which is really annoying about what happened Tuesday with my high schoolers practice, because we had a bunch of rain from the remnants of the hurricane, and then we had there's some crazy thunderstorms that rolled through, and it stirred everything up. So you had a sudden influx of water, and then another sudden influx of water, but with stormy weather, so it stained it all up. Like that usually to me is kind of like my magic combo where they push up shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Like 9 times out of 10. And Tuesday happened to be the one friggin' time out of 10 that it didn't pan out. They weren't up shallow for
Doesn't always happen.
It's
We were. I think you were fixing the thing when we were talking about this, but we found a couple of times this year, both Andrew and I, that like our weather has been so crazy that normally when you would expect them to push up shallow like that, the weather has almost been too much. That like it seems like the fish are just like screw this and just go deeper to be in more stable conditions.
which is what we found on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like everything about that in years past would have been like, yep, up shallow, here we go, and they just were not there.
There is like a threshold, I feel like, where they're like,
I feel like this whole year has just been a learning experience for everybody.
yeah.
Yeah,
It hasn't been just, we haven't really had that consistent bite all year long.
No.
It's like you go out, we're going to get 20, 30 fish today. Now you go out, you catch like 3 or 4, but one could be really good.
right.
That's the thing. It's been difficult this year.
I had a day this year that I got 60.
Weird.
It was on the Brownie Factory.
It was.
Oh.
It was.
I was supposed to go and I couldn't. And I was very sad. They were shallow still, weren't they?
4 feet, 4 or 5
Oh my
feet.
god.
Oh, that was the pre-spawn
Right.
still, right?
No, it was post spawn.
Oh, okay, yeah,
right
yeah.
post spawn. Yeah.
I can't remember which side of it you were on. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
And it was because I fished fast. I figured out exactly what kind of pattern they were on a certain kind of shoreline, and I literally ran like 30 miles that day back and forth across every spot in the lake that had that same thing, and it was like 8 fish here, 6 fish here, 5 fish here, 10 fish there, all day.
I've literally had one day like that up there, and it was magical. We had 21 pounds.
It's
For our
awesome.
best 5. We had 5 over 4 pounds. I couldn't even. I know our total for the day was close to 70 fish between the two of us.
Who's
Crazy.
that?
With Raptor.
Oh, yeah.
And just burning swimbaits, 5-inch Kitech on a 1/2-ounce football head.
It's awesome.
Bomb it, burn it, and that was when I was fishing my like original friggin' Swimbait, my big bait rod, right? It was a Daiwa, Team Daiwa. It was like that 100% solid blood red,
Yeah.
and it was a 7.3 extra heavy fast. So it was a broomstick, but I was burnt, dude. There's still a video actually. I think it was titled like "Best Day of Smallmouth Fishing" or something like that.
Yank the rod out of your hand. with
Oh
that.
my god, dude! I was talking to Raptor and I'm burning the thing back, and you could hear the whole rod like hammer and flex back. It's like, "Doo!" Like I hammered it, and you could hear Josh go, "Ooh!" Like it was just the hooks that you dream of, and it was a 4-pound, 12-ounce smallmouth.
That's awesome.
Dude. Oh yeah, dude. That was. I thought for sure I had my PB that day. I thought it was gonna break 5, and I'm still not convinced it didn't. When I go back and see pictures,
Exactly. I remember that video.
yeah, and I
exactly.
look at everything. To this day, I still don't understand how that fish didn't break 5 pounds. That thing was just built different,
Probably spit out a perch on its way in.
right? Jackass fish. So that's all right. Those were the questions answered. So one of the other questions I wanted to get to before we get too close to the end of the stream here. Favorite areas to target this time of the year for largemouth, and two different schools of thought on this. Let's start with largemouth, then we'll circle back to smallmouth. Your favorite area, like if you know you want to go out and fish fast, you're going out for numbers tomorrow. You're going for largemouth. Where's your first? Are you looking for deeper offshore grass? Are you going for rock piles? What are you looking for, Andrew, to start? Again, do you want numbers? Nothing else. You just want to go out and you want to hammer a bunch of fish.
I want to find the thickest weeds possible and throw freaking Texas rig.
Oh, you mean the little rage craw?
The rage craw, yeah. I'm gonna throw that thing in every little pocket I can find. That's it.
Joel motor on high and just
So on.
ding, 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 ding.
I mean, if numbers, no weight doesn't matter, that's exactly what I'm gonna throw.
What about you?
Points, probably.
Yeah.
Points, I would say this time of year, points with rock on them is big. Rock is basically what I would go to for numbers.
Yep.
I think that grass, obviously, they're in grass. If I was fishing grass, this is the time of year where the grass starts to die, and I would try to find the patches of grass that are not dying, and that's usually where the fish will school up, if they're in the grass. But normally, this time of year, I feel like if I'm looking for places where there's a big school of them that's easy for me to access.
Yep.
Like you can get them in the grass, like you said, but it's a lot of pitching and stuff like that. If I find a school of them on a rock pile, I could catch 20 out of that school in 20 minutes. You know what I
Primarily
mean?
cranking
So yeah,
then?
right. Cranking or with a jerk bait or even like just pitching a drop shot to the different rocks in the rock pile and stuff like that. But I also am biased because I am more of an offshore type person. Like I don't fish the grass that much. If I fish the grass, then it's like my backup plan usually. Like I would always rather catch fish offshore deeper than upshore in grass.
Yeah. I dig it. Hey Jason, sorry buddy, I missed you in here. Thank you for joining. Don, I would crack open another one if I had one, but I'm all out. I'm 100% out of alcohol now in my house, and it's okay. It's okay. I put on a brave face in the morning.
I could have brought some other stuff.
It's a real party, yeah. I think I'm with Andrew on this from my perspective too. If we're fishing fast and I just want to go out and crack numbers, it'd be a 1-2 punch of either jig or Texas rig, depending on what kind of vegetation. Like if I know I can get away with good lily pads, but still kind of like hard packed bottom around it, and then not like a couple images of that soft spongy crap, then I might pitch a jig more than I would
or shaky head.
a Texas rig. Yeah, shaky head's always good too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also gonna follow up with a fluke because I can still work that really fast.
Yeah,
And
you've been working that thing like crazy this year.
dude, it's so good. It is so freaking good because again, you get the best of both worlds, right? I could find one nice little opening, like just a few feet into the pads, bomb that thing in there, let it soak for a few seconds, and then I'm gonna work it out fast. And if I'm not getting them inside on that initial drop, I can usually catch them just on the outside.
I think wood comes into play a lot more. Like you can catch them on a tree any time of year, but I feel like
Wood overlying deep water.
right, like the big thing that happens now is that the grass starts to die, and when the grass starts to die, it releases nitrogen and all that. There's a whole bunch of stuff behind it, but like they don't want to be in there. Like it's not a good environment for them to be in for a long time. So I feel like they start to pull out, and what they pull out to is the grass that's still alive, which is where you guys would get them, or they'll pull out to the first tree that they see, or the first rock pile that they see, or the first boulder that they see.
Yep.
Right. So you guys are getting them on the grass. I'm just going to the rock pile or to the wood or whatever like that. I've found a couple weeks ago, actually, last Friday, I took one of my friends out. You know where I took him to the pond that we like, and we caught. I think between the two of us, we caught 23 or 24, and 90% of them. This was in 2 hours, and 90% of them were out of one tree. Like
No kidding.
They had pulled out. They had pulled out of some of the grass, and there was just a tree that was sticking out into the water with some scraggly branches, and it was just pitching a drop shot around the tree and then fishing a spy bait on the outside of the tree, and we caught like almost 25 fish right from that one spot, pretty much.
Nice. All right, so on the opposite of the spectrum,
Do I know what this is?
yeah, your spot where you saw the
Yes.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one.
So the opposite end of the spectrum, still for largemouth, going slower. It's funny because Mike said it before I could even get to it. Dragging a big Texas rig ribbon-tailed worm. If I'm out there this time of the year and I want to fish slow and methodical, and I'm specifically targeting largemouth, big Texas rig ribbon-tailed worm, like 8 to 10 inch, and I'm gonna go with a 1/4 ounce. More often than not, a 1/4 ounce weight. Sometimes go 3/16 if I'm fishing like deeper grass, and I want to not only get down fast to make sure, like, if I'm fishing in 20 feet of water and I've got a good juicy patch of grass that I want to, if I know that or feel comfortable my cast is accurate, I want it to get down in there quick. But then you also get the added benefit of that weight's going to rocket down there way faster, and the worm's going to take quite a long time to trail behind that because that heavy weight's going to get well ahead of it. So to me, it kind of maximizes the potential of that bite.
Big thing that you just said is 20 feet of water. That 99.9999999% of people that fish, especially up here, are not fishing grass in 20 feet of water because, one, they don't know that there's grass that deep, or two, they're not comfortable fishing deep like that.
They
But
ski lily pads and that's it.
right,
And
they go down the
like, "Ah, there's nothing
shoreline.
else."
Right, they
They're
go down the
visual
shorelines.
anglers.
They fish the docks. They fish the lily pads. But if you can find a patch of grass or a grass edge that's in deeper water like that, it's the best spot that you'll find. Because if for no other reason, because no one else is fishing.
Right. I mean, this last weekend we found a patch of grass out in the middle of nowhere. You caught a 5.9 off it.
That was beautiful. I love that 360.
Yeah.
It was funny because, like, it wasn't just in the middle of nowhere. The big grass patch we found was in the middle of nowhere.
Literally.
And
in the middle of nowhere.
if we didn't circle around to the other side, I don't think I would have seen. I mean, that patch of grass is probably about the size of this table. Maybe the size of 2 or 3 of these tables, actually,
It
in
wasn't
actuality.
big.
But
It was not big.
no, it was tiny because the grass patch we were fishing looked big, but it really wasn't that
Probably
big.
maybe the
Ridgeland
size
Farm.
of this room maybe.
Yep.
He's backed up our thing. He's hitting them on docks. So docks are hard cover, right?
Yep.
So pulling out of the grass, and the dock is the first thing they come to. That's where they stop.
Remember that tournament we got our asses kicked at a couple years ago? Menominee.
Yeah.
Oh, but
The
I'm
last
very, very
5
veggie.
minutes
We kind of figured it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
with like no time left. But that's another place that's got a ton of veggies. And we had done well in that before, and we got our asses kicked by people doing that before. But that was like a warm year, right? Where the vegetation didn't quite die off right away.
Yeah.
And then this year we go, and we're like, awesome, nobody's going for that grass patch. We go there, we didn't catch anything because we didn't put it together at the time. And right at the end of the day, finally, he stumbled onto it. Like, we're like, let's just go fish docks. I was like, all right. So we go, and he had the right combo, the color and everything. Pitched in, catch the fish. Next dock, catch the fish. But we thought it was a different type of dock. We were getting bit on wooden post docks, not metal post docks. So we thought it was that, not that he had the right combination for the jig color, which is what everybody told us at the end of the day. So I think it was a combination of that and the fact that there was probably grass that was dying off better in some areas versus others.
Right.
So that was where it was holding better concentrations of fish. There's a lot to it. But yeah, to his point, to expand upon it, and give a very specific example of learning that lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah, deep docks end of the year, absolutely.
Mike has questions.
Mike did say just about all my fish were on an 11-inch worm last weekend on the living stuff near the dead stuff. That's awesome. And then he said, oh, Dan, you need to find some hard cover if all the grass is already dead, or just go offshore and find rock piles.
I love that. Let's
So-
bring that 60 feet back. I want to go catch fish out of 60 feet.
Dude, we're not that far off. I have to tell you about something that I ordered today for the cold water season that I am beyond hyped about.
Is
But I'm
that
not
a
gonna
heater for the boat?
Is
I
that
already
the
got
one
that.
you texted me earlier about?
Yep. I had an idea for a technique that we were already doing, but I wanted to expand upon it, and like I was like, I have an idea, and
Is
I
it
bought
in
it
Maine?
to do it. No. I'm literally gonna make something that does not exist.
Yeah, it did. Sounds pretty freaking good.
As far as I'm aware, it does not exist. So I'm feeling really good about
And
it, but
it's gonna work 100%.
I really don't see why it won't. I just gotta make sure I get the right sizes down.
I'm interested.
But yeah, Dan, ribbon tail worm, man, like that's killer. All right, so that was my slow. What was, if you're going slow? If you were thinking about going slow, Dennis, how would you slow down?
I fished kind of slow this last Sunday.
The brakes, bud.
Put it in reverse, Terry.
Yeah, so this last Sunday, I fished a place that had, you know where I fished. I won't say it so that the boat ramp doesn't get blown up.
do it.
But I fished a lake in western New Hampshire, and it's a place that gets an enormous amount of fishing pressure, where every spot that you go to has 5 other boats on it. And I started out trying to get smallmouth. I've got a couple fishing deep, and it wasn't what I wanted. You could tell that they had been hammered recently. I think there was a tournament there the day before I got there and stuff. So I started to fish for largemouth. I was fishing a deep crankbait. I fished the deep crankbait around fast until I started to get bites, caught a couple fish in the deep crankbait, and then I kind of shut off. But that told me that there were fish in the area. So then I fished slow. And I broke down the area, and I actually, it was like the first time that I've thrown a shaky head in like 10 years, but I threw a shaky head.
We were pointing that out. We were driving home from fishing, and we were looking at pictures. He was like, huh, he was fishing a shaky head.
It was like the first time that I used a shaky head in 10 years, but it saved my day. I ended up catching like 13 or 14 fish or something doing that, and I got a couple that were probably not quite 4. I didn't weigh any, but good one, like good quality, over 3 pound fish. I probably got like 5 or 6 that were that size, just fishing a shaky head in the area where I found them with a deep crankbait, and just kind of like picking it apart in like holes in the grass and like any spot where I saw sparse vegetation or like a tree in the grass or something like that, just picking those places apart.
Mm-hmm. Show me a few graded winnings from now. All good. Andrew, you. For if you're going largemouth, slow this time. You gave your fast. What's your slow? Go to. Jig.
Jiggy.
It just works so damn well.
And slow for, we doing largemouth or small?
Still slow on largemouth. Well, you just answered jig.
So jig. I mean that jig, depending on what we're fishing. A lot of rocks and a lot of trees and stuff. I'm gonna throw jig. If it's grassy, really anything Texas rig, I'll still fish it the same way as a jig.
That swimbait's quickly entering into your arsenal now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's swim-bait.
It's next one up. Mine's dead, so I don't even have it. That's the Beast Coast Miyagi, so that's 4.65 inches.
Yeah, no.
He's using the working class Citizen. Working class 0, Citizen 6 inch. And that thing, dude, even I was getting trucked on it when I had the kids out for practice last Friday. Yep, that's actually the hook that came out of my Citizen. I was looking for a 6/0 hook, and I went out to the boat, and I forgot. I took that ox, my bait. Literally, like, I blew the nose out, the body's split in half the whole way down, it's dead. But thankfully, I just ordered some more, so it's all good. I got some replacements on the way. I got lucky on the drop. That guy literally had thousands of baits, and he sold out of them in 4 minutes.
That's impressive.
4 minutes, gone.
I
even texted you.
I know. I looked at my phone and it was like 9:15. I was like, damn it.
All right, now we'll kind of speed it up a little bit because it's getting a little late here. Smallmouth, Andrew, back to you. Both, you're especially this time of the year. Although it's kind of harder to answer because it's
I mean, I will fish literally any bait slow.
We did just for large.
I will fish a tube slow. I will fish a drop shot slow. I will fish. If I could fish a spinnerbait slow, I would. For smallmouth, I'd have to say probably tube and jig. I mean, it's kind of the same thing.
Yep.
And drop shot. For slow, yeah.
Yeah, for slow. Yeah. And then fast.
That.
Square bill?
Square bill.
For this time of the year, though?
For this time of the year.
Well, this time of the year, they're in 50 feet of water.
Right, so yeah, how do you fish those fast?
I don't.
You don't. That's why I kind of, when I was asking the question, I'm like, you kind of can't really fish them fast right now.
Yeah, no.
Not up here, not in the glacial lakes that we have in New Hampshire because they're so deep. Like, you go down towards, like, Candlewood, you can still get plenty of good smallmouth up shallow. St. Lawrence, like Ontario, but, now you're talking, like, outliers. Typically, they're just deeper, or if you've got them in shallow ponds, like, I've got a couple of killer shallow pond smallmouth fisheries, but I do terrible at them this time of year.
Underspin is fast for me.
I was gonna say either underspin or a slightly heavier Okashira, because it's fast, right? In relation to dead sinking a drop shot, you're still crawling the damn thing.
Moving it, but it's
Spybait too, but it's a constant movement thing. So you're relative to a drop shot, you're fishing it fast, right?
Right. But I'm still moving slow across the lake or across the spot and area.
Right, being thorough.
Yes, being very thorough.
Methodical.
Thorough.
Thoreau? He's a
French.
Henry David Thoreau?
Who?
You're being very Henry David
Stop
Thoreau.
it.
That's
I'm gonna throw this at you.
Dad jokes!
Throw this at you.
Or what about you, Dennis? Smallmouth, both slow and fast, especially this time of year.
So earlier, normally my overall best fast smallmouth baits would be a crankbait and a jerkbait, but this time of year when they're out real deep, I think fast baits, I guess, would be spy bait and probably some sort of jigging spoon, something like that. Like I use this one a lot. Steel shed. Ever use one of those? It's basically like a silver buddy, but it's
Yeah.
a little bit bigger.
That thing's huge.
Yeah, so silver buddies and like blade baits, obviously they're like the number one wintertime bait for smallmouth, but this, like in the fall and stuff too, if the smallmouth are out deep, like in Winnipesaukee, they're in, 45, 50 feet of water, something like this looks a lot like a smelt. It looks a lot like a smelt. You can work this. That's for lake trout.
I was gonna say it's
yeah.
like a vertical jig.
Yeah, you can work this a lot faster than you'd work a drop shot. The other thing would
Fishing things?
Oh.
no lake trout.
I know what this is. I was trying to figure that out. I'm looking at like, what is all that stuff wrapped around that treble hook? Now I know.
It's for this
Yeah.
line through jigging spoon.
That's awesome.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. The other thing would be a spy bait for me. I use spy baits a ton. So if you're around perch, they have these perch colored
I have one of those.
spy baits. If you're around smelt or something, they have these
Oh, let me see that.
really clear. It depends on the obviously it depends on like the cloud cover. If it's really sunny, you use a clear one. If it's cloudy, you use kind of a more opaque
Yeah.
or opaque one. But yeah, spy bait I think is I have caught an enormous amount of fish on spy baits.
I lost one.
And it was a
that's something.
giant.
That's something.
It was in 3 feet of water.
That's not
and it was
really.
probably close to 6 pounds.
Remember the day. Remember the day in like April this year when I posted that I caught. It was actually it was the day that I caught the 7-pounder. But before that I caught 26 brook trout, and almost all of those brook trout were on a spy bait.
That's insane.
Really?
Almost all of them. Yeah. Almost all of them were on a spy bait. Yeah.
That's
No
cool.
snatchy panda. That's not your Bangermainer.
My favorite.
For slow specifically this time of year for smallmouth, it would be drop shot, and then recently this year I have added in and have really had a lot of success with a Demiki.
I was really hoping you were going to say that.
So yeah, that would be my second.
I still need practice with it. It's something I've been trying to use this is my third season now trying to get it, and I still have yet to catch a friggin' fish on the Demiki. But I'll get there.
I was the same way. Like, so I realized that
Think of it as a different bait.
like when I was a kid, I would take a fluke and put it on a jig head and like fish that.
Yeah.
And it's basically what a Demiki rig is, but like actually fishing it like vertically and stuff, like for suspended fish that you're seeing, this is the first year that I've really gotten into that, like, oh, there's a fish, and dropping down to that particular fish.
Yep.
And I've had a couple days on Winnipesaukee where like all of my biggest fish have come on the Demiki rig, where like I'll catch, because it's Winnipesaukee, I'll catch like 15 on a drop shot, and then I'll see one on there and drop it down and get like a 4-pounder on the Demiki rig, and it's like, oh, just keep
Nice.
doing that.
I like it. There is questions in the chat. I'll get to in a second, but just to rifle through mine for smallmouth this time of the year, if I'm fishing fast, again, it's really hard to say. I want to say underspin, but I've only had like moderate success with it. But that's my fastest method that I'm going to use, or a tube. That's actually no. Tube is gonna be my number one. I still won't really fish it fast right now, but like I kind of can. I will make long bombing casts, and like I'm gonna make longer drags. I'm gonna pop it. Like I'm gonna basically almost try and yo-yo it, right? Like I'm gonna grab reel and the butt end of the rod and like crack it. I actually had a rod specifically built by Wicked Custom Rods that was meant to crack 3/4 ounce tubes. I don't do it that often. I am usually more in the 1/2 ounce range aside, 3/8 and 1/2 ounce. But that's probably my most consistent for fishing fast. But if I'm fishing slow, absolutely hands down drop shot. Close second though, Ned rig. That Ned rig just, it's the Senko of the smallmouth world. It's the stupidest, easiest thing to do. And on a 1/10 ounce head, you can still actually cover water pretty effectively with it. But it's just like a Senko, man. If it doesn't get bit on the drop, or like the first subsequent little couple of twitches shakes, then reel it up, find a new spot, bomb it out, repeat. Like it's weird. You can do both of it. It takes forever for that thing to fall down and hit the bottom when you're in 40 feet of water, but because of that, you cover like kind of like you were talking about with your 3/16 ounce weight drop shot. If they're kind of in the middle of that water column, it gives them a large window to be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, what's that thing coming towards me?
And it gets closer. What is that? Oh, that actually looks like something I normally eat. You know, and they get in on it. And if they don't hit it on the fall, then it's just going to stand right up. Very easy for them to find it once it's down there. So it's kind of best of both worlds.
Yeah, Nico rig comment in there. I love the Nico rig for David Richardson. I'll fish a Nico rig 8 out of 10 times at this point over a Senko when possible.
That's what I caught my PB on last year.
I just don't fish Senkos anymore.
I love Nico rig.
Like,
It's
I
so
do
it's
rarely,
so much
once in a while.
faster.
But
Yeah,
I want to try it. I still haven't. I think I threw it once.
you should. And like now's the time to do it too.
It's
Because I don't know, DJ was one that put me onto that of all days, that stupid day in Winnipesaukee with that woman at the dock. But that was the day he introduced me to a Nico rig Senko. And I've thrown it moderately ever since then. And then last year, like I saw my friggin' bass, my PB. And I've worked that, it was exactly 13 minutes from the moment I saw it to the moment I caught it. And I tried all my finesse stuff. No one was down there. And finally my brain was like, well, dude, you have the Nico rig Senko on. You haven't tried it yet. Try it. Okay. Second cast that I caught that fish. It's neat because I throw a 5/32 ounce nail weight in the back of that, which really isn't a lot of weight.
It's a lot for a Senko.
It's a lot for a Senko.
Enough
Like
to get it to do this.
yeah, and the just how much that little bit of weight at the bottom of it with just factoring in leverage and the whole 9 yards. Like, dude, you can add like 50 feet to your casting distance on that thing. It's nuts for something so light.
And
I mean,
for
you can still bomb a Senko.
you can, but
Yeah.
for like places where they're used to, like, there are a lot of places where fish see 100 Senkos a day. The place where you guys fished the giant Swimbait tournament recently,
Yeah.
that's a place where they see 100 Senkos a day.
Yep.
I've had days where I've gone there, fished a Nico rig, and just like absolutely demolished them over the person in the back of my boat fishing a Senko,
Right.
just because theirs is doing the same thing that everybody else's is doing, where mine's going shoop, right into the grass, and it's a different look for them.
Yep. Real quick, Don Swift, thank you very much for the donation. $15 donation that he paid. I'm not sure what through because I only have the text, but I'm assuming probably Venmo. Thank you very much, Don. Dude, greatly appreciate it. That puts us now at $110
Nice.
on the night, which I think makes us one of, if not the most lucrative. That's not the right word. I guess just thank you. I don't know how else to put it. This has been one of the best streams we've had to this point now for donations. We're well on our way towards that next milestone for what we're going to do with the channel, and we can't do without you guys. So thank you very much. Backing up a little bit, Jason, yes, drop shotting a swim bait, especially now this time of year, very effective. I don't really swim it. I still fish it like a normal drop shot, but just something about even dead sticking that even like a 2.5 inch swim bait on a drop shot, it's killer. I love it.
It's the right profile.
Yep. Floppy did ask, tips for fishing soft plastics and jigs. New to fishing and I've been getting no luck using them.
I thought the name was Floppy Tips.
Floppy tips.
I thought that was the name. That's a great name.
Let's keep him
That's a
around.
great. That is a great name.
It is. I'm putting that on my Xbox. Where the hell am
No. You're Hyundai Hotbox now, aren't you?
I? I'm Hyundai Hotbox, but
If
I'm changing it to.
change it to Floppy Tips.
No, it was fried formula.
Right.
If you're struggling getting bites with soft plastics and jigs and stuff like that, find hardcover, find a tree, and cast it into places where other people aren't casting it. If you're not getting stuck with things like that every now and then you're not casting enough into the stuff you need to be casting into.
Yeah.
If you're not losing baits, you're
Right. You need to with everything, you need to put your bait in a place where the 10 guys that fished that tree before you didn't put their baits.
Because those bait fish are up in that tree.
Yep.
Not around it.
Right. Cam Yates, did you see that 7.71 my partner caught last weekend at Windy? Yes, I did. That thing was an absolute beast.
Yeah, that's a big fish.
Congrats to your buddy. That was insane, man. Yeah, Dan, absolutely try Ned rig. Keep it simple. 1/10 ounce it sounds light, but it's really not that light. And it works killer. I know guys that live and die by a 1/20th ounce weight and guys that live and die by a 1/4 ounce weight. So find whichever one you're most comfortable with and just really rely on that in the fall. I like the lighter weight. I think it's more effective. And that woman on the dock, that was funny. Yeah. I kind of regret that video.
I like that video.
Hey,
David Richardson, do you guys fish around active feeding loons? I think
that's a good question.
Yeah,
I
I think
don't really have a choice.
for me, yeah. So
That's where the bait is.
for me, exactly. The loons will show you where the bait is. You could find bait, obviously, in a lot of places where there aren't loons, and you may be better off doing that. But if you see loons that are actively eating, it means that there's bait there, which means that there's probably fish there too. But I think that in freshwater, the bass view loons in a similar way that like saltwater fish view a dolphin or a shark or something like that. Like loons eat them,
Right.
so
They get spooked.
yeah, they're not going to go nuts when there's a bunch of loons diving through them because the loons will eat them. So
I mean, I caught a 4.5 in front of a loon this past weekend.
yeah, I mean it happens.
Yeah.
But I've caught fish in front of dolphins too. But I've also had sharks eat fish off of my line.
Yeah, the one friggin'
Where? Let's go.
the very first time we
Not
went
in freshwater.
I know.
last year we went out on Eastman's. Remember the captain came down and he's holding that balloon.
Freaking shark.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing that for? He's like, sharks. Someone holds up their fish from down the other end. And it's like bitten clean off.
Yeah,
And then 20 minutes after that, Andrew catches another haddock and he's reeling it up. And all of a sudden it stops.
I'm like, uh-oh.
And then
I'm like, oh shit.
and then it just popped off.
did they know what kind of shark it was?
A
Was it
port
blue?
beagle.
Oh, port beagle.
Yeah.
Those are big.
Yeah, he said he saw it. He said it was like
I think so,
6
yeah.
or 7 feet long.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It was a pretty big one.
That was so funny watching. Like I'm watching him fight the fish up, all of a sudden just the whole rod, and then just lines running and running and
I was
running.
like, Captain was above me. I'm like,
We got a situation down here. But that was only like what 5 seconds it was on before it just broke off.
yeah,
That was insane though.
that was pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, really? I'm like, God, Jesus. There was a kink. I'm like,
Put it in reverse, Terry.
that was gnarly. That was cool.
I don't know, man. So at this point, if there's anything else you guys have in the chat that you want to bring up, please let me know. Don paid us through Venmo. Thank you very much again, Don. I appreciate it.
Dan or Don?
Don. Dan Trainer is a different one, but there's Don Swift was up in the chat. He donated too.
Okay, cool.
I'm open to free money too if anybody wants to give
bro.
me any money.
Right.
Just I'm not on the channel, but just
He's in there in spirit. If there's anything else you guys want to ask us for questions too, like specific to, I guess rationale between, well, yeah, really anything. If you want to keep it on topic, like anything, just hit us up. Is there any parting thoughts you guys wanted to hit that we did not discuss or maybe didn't elaborate on enough earlier? Or even a specific bait that we didn't get to talk about earlier that you wanted to bring up?
That Citizen's pretty freaking sweet.
Dude, that thing is something else. So
I love it. It's different.
the thing I like about that is the way it falls. Because it falls head down.
It's like,
and it just...
I mean, these do it too.
but nowhere near the same.
Not as much, but they still do it. It's
Yeah.
like the tail is like, wah.
Yeah.
It looks like a dying fish.
But it's consistent. It's weird because it rolls, and then it kind of kicks on the way down, and then it kicks. But it's not like a steady roll. It rolls, pause, rolls, pause, rolls.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
It's something about that. It works great. Mark did ask, going to Winnie this weekend, any recommendations?
Yeah, another lake.
Dude, yeah. Well, I mean, you
I'm
live
sorry.
up there. You're fit. He's the one that lives. His dad has a house. Remember that rock last year? Drop shot in like 2 feet of water, and you caught the 4.5 and the 5.5 on back-to-back
yeah,
casts?
yeah.
That's literally right behind his
house,
parents' house.
Yeah.
He's so
Thank you.
largemouth, right? Oh, okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Yep. Nope.
That was
No.
no,
No.
not
Oh,
that. So were we. Trust me.
I got a 3, a 3, and then cast right back in there. I was like, man, I'll do it again. You're like, nah.
Dude, it was funny. Yeah, he just went to go lift up his rod and he just hit. Oh.
That's awesome. Mark, if you're
Um,
fishing Winnie, fish really deep this time of year.
I think he's in a kayak though, so he's kind of limited. Although,
Not really. I mean,
do you
go
know
up
where I
100
caught my
feet,
PB?
50 feet.
It was right there. Is where he is.
Okay.
So if you go, compass
Fish
west
the bridge.
of that spot, there's a couple of points out there that I think are attainable by kayak, and they're deep and they're very well known.
Yeah, just fish the.
You'll be good.
Winnie is really well marked. Just find those
Buoy markers?
those buoy markers.
Work the outside.
The thing about this time of year on Winnie is that you'll fish 10 spots, 9 of them will have nothing, but then you'll go to the 10th spot and you'll catch 30 fish in that 10th spot because they school up so much because they're where the smelt is.
Right.
And the smelt school up. They're not spread out this time of year, so you gotta run and gun. You gotta fish like me. You gotta run and gun, and then once you find them, you can fish slow. But they won't be in every spot you go to. But when you find them, you found them.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark, that spot will be hammered. Dude, if you're going up there tomorrow, you should go out there and fish that wake bait along that whole thing. Underneath it, on both sides of it, all friggin' over it, and I really think you're gonna be rewarded by doing that. The night bite's setting up pretty well. Oh, thanks. All right, Dan, have a great night, man. Greatly appreciate it, buddy.
Is this the banjo minnow?
Yes. It's similar.
Rouge Trader. Ned rigs are not talked from Dennis. No, actually, you really didn't bring up Ned rig at all.
I use Ned rigs every now and then. Not that much.
No.
Not that much. I feel like Ned rigs for me, like when Ned rigs were new, it was like I would go out and have like 50, 60 fish days on a Ned rig. And then now every boat that fishes is using a Ned rig.
Like I said, it's the Senko, the smallmouth.
Right. I've gotten to a
Almost gonna
point
be ahead
now
of the curve.
where in my boat right now, I do not have a Ned rig tied on. I probably have 20 rods in my boat, and I don't have a Ned rig tied on any of them. I do use it every now and then, but like if I'm fishing only for smallmouth, and I know I'm going to be fishing a certain depth range, then if that matches with a Ned rig, I'll have it tied on. But it's not my first choice anymore, just because they see so many of them. If I am using a Ned rig, a lot of times I'll try to change up the bait that I have on it, even if it's something as simple as like using the TRD that has like the little tube tails on it or something like that, just because like the regular TRD smallmouth are seeing 50 of them a day, so if, like I'm at a point now where I try to change it up a little bit.
Mint. Well, speaking of dying grass and stuff building up and stuff, I don't know what everybody else's plans are this weekend, but we're going to Champlain Sunday,
Are you?
and we're going to punch mats.
I don't know if I can. Are you going?
I know. My sister's leaving.
Saturday,
It's her party. Her going away party.
and how does that impact the Sunday?
It's gonna be a late night.
Be responsible. You really going to miss Champlain for the 4th time in a row?
No.
That's what I
ain't
thought.
missing.
You got tomorrow, not tomorrow. You got Saturday to sleep a little bit.
A little bit, because I gotta be here in the morning to help you fix the boat.
Well, what time do you?
I was gonna say
figure it
like
out.
8 o'clock. Be here.
Whatever works for you.
What part are you going?
Where did we go last time? Apple door.
Same thing.
Yeah, same spot.
Is that where you fish?
A little north of
Little
there,
north
but
of
that's a good spot though.
Well, so your island.
Yeah.
That's where we'll run to first. We'll go fish that for a little bit.
Oh, so you're gonna go small.
Smallmouth first to start, and then we'll go work all the grass.
I want to show you before I leave. I'll show you a spot that if it doesn't pan out, that you can trailer and launch there, and I guarantee you'll catch fish. I guarantee it.
All right, that's good to know. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. Let me put it this way: I am going to Champlain on Sunday. He will either be there on time, or he'll be calling me with regret again later in the morning for the 4th time.
I broke my wrist. I got too drunk. I don't know what happened.
Are you sleeping there? Are you
No, I'll drive
driving
up.
7 hours in one day?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Nah, it's fine. And well, the plus side though is I have Monday off, so I can recover.
I'm off tomorrow.
You suck.
And I'm off Monday. I'm going fishing in the morning.
Everybody's off on Monday. Doesn't count.
I get every Monday off.
So we'll see how it goes. But I'm looking forward to getting that flip and bite, and hoping the best. But DJ was just there last weekend, and he killed it.
Really?
Yep. So I texted him asking if he was gonna be around.
I talked to a guy that fished with him that I didn't know they were connected. There was a guy that went with him, and then once I looked at the guy's pictures, I realized like, oh, they're there together.
So it was either Alex or Patrick.
I don't know their names.
Okay.
But I showed him a couple of places where they ended up going fishing. Yeah.
Nice. Man,
I'll show you.
Jason, good luck on the river Saturday. Our buddy's gonna be there too. Hopefully the fish are biting for everybody. Stefan, you're gonna be on Champlain on Tuesday. Nice, man. Have fun. I would say good luck, but you know what you're doing. And thank you again, Rouge Trader. Cam Yates, be fishing Ossipee. Got any tips there? I do not, because I've only fished there twice in my life.
Never fished there.
Once was a tournament in 2011, and we finished 4th or 5th. Literally the only time we were fished there. We had 5 for 13 and change.
You think those fish haven't moved in the last 10 years?
Yeah, probably not.
They're
I'm sure
still
they're
in the
still
same
there.
spot. Yeah.
Just go fish, dude. You can honestly probably do fine just fishing inside the river like channels.
Still.
In the main lake on the southern end, there's the river that feeds in. Fish out front of that. Any of the drops, just like keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Steep drops, look for the bait. You'll have a good time. I don't know, man. Aside from that, I've got nothing else left for parting thoughts here. You guys?
No. I think the takeaway is to gain confidence in fishing fast and fishing slow.
Yeah, and you can pick one or the other because like both are viable right now. That's the biggest thing. You don't have to be good at both. It'd be great if you are, because then you have the ultimate versatility, right? But if you want to be comfortable fishing fast, he proves it time and time and time again that it works, and you do not really ever have to adjust, with small exceptions. Same deal for him, fishing on the other end of the spectrum. You can fish incredibly slow, and it's rare that that doesn't work. But then there's some days, like what I ran into on Tuesday, that didn't work, and you had to speed up to get a couple of bites. But, you know, if the whole season, out of this, there's only this much, where fishing only one of those two ways isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. You can make it work, just sometimes by changing up your presentation a little bit, but you don't have to change your cadence or how fast you're going through anything. You know, how quickly you're running through spots, or vice versa, how slow you're going through it. You know, sometimes it's just a color change, and that can be the difference between fishing fast working and not working, and vice versa for fishing slow. So yeah, if you can, get good at both. But this is one of those things where you don't have to pick one over the other, or you can. Whatever makes more sense to you. I'm tired.
It's a good way to close it. It's a good way to close it.
Thank you all very much for watching. If you haven't yet and you're still here, please like the stream, because again, it's like I cannot begin to tell you how helpful it is just for helping this grow. It helps in the YouTube algorithm big time. For everybody that donated tonight, again, thank you very much. This has been huge. I think now we're at quick maths here, like $450 maybe after this, because we're a little over 300. So we're pretty close to 450. So we're just under. We're $50 shy of the halfway point to the camera. The camera alone is $1,000. I'll make up the rest of it after that for you know, charger and cables and all that crap to make it work. But if we can get the camera covered, man, I will be stoked. And then again, plus side, we'll take the webcam and I'll move it over and put up a little window down the side that can be like just you know, a bait highlight cam. So, you know, next time we're showing you a tube like this, I can just slide over here in front of the camera and it'll be nice and big for you in the little corner. And you guys can see it in greater detail. So it's a little bit easier for you to understand what it is we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So, see how it goes. Mike, thank you very much. I hope we smash them too. Chris, have a great night. I'm going to kill the stream. You guys signing off.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. That's too much pressure.
Yeah, nah. Well, it was a great stream tonight. Next week, we're going to be pretty much in the same seats. I might be sitting like this. But other than that, we'll see you next week. Same time, same place.